Okay. All right. Good afternoon. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Pearl Daily here on the Audacity Network. I am Pearl. I am your host. We go live on YouTube, X, Rumble, and the Audacity Network website. If you guys want your chat read, please go to theaudacitynetwork.com. It's $80 a year. $10 a month, and I will read your chat. So you just put Pearl Read and put 2 dots in the comment section, and I do read it. So if you question, comment, concern. Our goal is to get 3,500 members by the end of the year. This is a lofty goal, but with your help, we can achieve it. I do want to make a generalization before I start the show. I want to make a disclaimer before I start the show. I do make generalizations sometimes. And I want you to know that I never mean all of a group. But when I'm talking about societal trends, sometimes it's difficult to describe society without talking about groups. But we are on YouTube. I don't want to get flagged for hate speech. I will, as a disclaimer, say some, not all. And, okay. So the other day, I was... One second, guys. Okay. So the other day, I was hanging out and I got a bunch of texts. My cousin texted me. My friends texted me. They said, Candace Owens mentioned you on her show. And I thought, I'm just, when I look at these people, they're big time. They're, the Brett Coopers, the Candace Owens. There are these big time celebrities. I'm just this random woman named Pearl who streams sometimes, right? This is how I view it. So I thought that's crazy. They mentioned me, huh? Okay. And there was a clip that I saw her show, and there was a clip going viral, or not a clip, sorry, part of her show where she said that podcasting is a hard job. Now, it was just an offhanded, something she said. I'll show you the clip. And I put in the chat, did she say podcasting is a hard job? And I guess this pissed her off, asking this question. Maybe it's because the answer makes us all look bad, but I just kind of say it how it is. Let me pull up the clip. So this is the clip I responded to in the chat. Full screen, okay.
Why this story was so big and why so many people covered it wasn't because of any particular feeling about Daily Wire. It could have been the Blaze, it could have been anybody else. It truly is a meaningful story for all of us content creators and also for the audiences that watch us and invest in us. Because I have to tell you something, it is not easy to produce an interesting show 5 days a week. Okay. There are days when you really don't want to do it. You're not feeling that good, whatever it is that's going on. And you're like, there's nothing to talk about. And so for any podcaster that is committing to that, they are working tremendously hard. Understand, they are working tremendously hard because they don't want to let their audiences down. And whether that's Tucker Carlson on Fox News or Brett Cooper on YouTube, they're doing it because they love it. And the reward is obviously the audience. The reward is that you guys come back. The motivation is you guys. So if we cross over into a different season of our respective lives, there's always this feeling like, okay, it's man versus corporation. It's David versus Goliath. It's, okay, did people just invest in the corporation or did people actually appreciate the work that I did? And in this circumstance, every independent creator is watching this going, my goodness, the audience really loves.
Okay. So I listened to this clip and I think I've worked in media for the last 4 years. And I'm going to go into what I did, my experience in media. You guys can decide if it's credible or not credible. Okay. You guys can be the judge, the jury. But I thought to myself, I see the men that are police officers, that are firemen. The number one job in the country for men is truckers, or it's like top 3. And compared to them, we don't work hard at all. I think we are so lucky and privileged to be in this position that when I hear any complaining, anything saying this is hard, we have to work so incredibly hard, it just rubs me the wrong way. I just think it's over exaggerated a bit. And I'm gonna show you why I think like this, okay? Now, I put this in the chat. I said I'm typing. Now, mind you, this woman has like 40,000 people. I mean, she's big time. I don't even think she's gonna see my chat. And I guess it offended her. I put, she's gonna read my comment here at the end of the show. I missed it because I left. I didn't even know till this morning. Okay.
She said that she has her own YouTube channel. She said, "Did you say being a podcaster is hard? Please." Yeah, I said, no, actually, Pearl, what I said was if you want to be a good podcaster and actually create good content and not just
Mm.
be a person that just full time says awful things about women at all times and no matter what, can't say one nice thing about a woman because that's your brand, then it's probably really easy to be a podcaster on YouTube. Alas, she has her own.
You know, okay, so now she's going back and saying Pearl hates women. Pearl is just, you're just a woman. It's back to the shame, guilt, insult, need to be right. I don't like what you say, therefore you're just a woman hater. Now we're going to get into those claims. We're going to do it. But first, let's hear from our show sponsor. Life doesn't slow down when you're a parent. Between late night feedings, work stress, and just trying to find a moment for yourself, sleep is the first thing to go. And, I really have a lot of empathy for the parents out there. I really, you guys, I know you work so hard. But here's the thing, poor sleep doesn't just leave you tired. It affects everything, your focus, your mood, even your health. This is why I started taking PreSleep, a melatonin-free sleep supplement made to help parents like you unwind, quiet your mind, and get the deep restorative sleep you need. With ingredients like magnesium, glycine, and PreSleep helps to naturally wake you up recharged and ready to tackle the day. Use the code PEARL at checkout for 10% off on your first order. Okay, thank you to our sponsors, PreSleep. Now, I want to tell you guys a little bit about how I started my show. So, I overnight basically became one of the biggest podcasters in the country during, like, I don't know, 2 years ago, 1 year ago now. And what happened was I was working in sales. I worked 2 years in sales and I did door-to-door copier sales. Now, anybody that's done copier sales knows that in sales, this is like the worst in the industry. Like out of the sales jobs, this just isn't something that you want, right? This is like bottom of the barrel in terms of sales. Now, I go to England and I'm going there to play volleyball. And on the side, I decide I'm going to start a YouTube channel. I already had it, but it was nothing big. It was, small channel, whatever. And after shows, I decided to invite women over to do like a talk show. So I would recruit the guests from, hold on, make in the description. Sorry. All right, 1 second. Sorry, guys. Okay. So what I would do is during the show, when I was in England, I would recruit people from volleyball. So I played semi-professional volleyball. My goal was to go play professionally in Germany, somewhere else, right? I'm doing this show on the side. I get into red pill content because I randomly got into PUA when I was in the United States. So I had this small channel. I'm reacting to seduction coaches, I would say is the best way to describe it. So, I didn't know how hard dating was for men. I had no idea how difficult it was. I'd never really thought about dating from the men's point of view. And randomly, I just find a couple videos like Kevin Samuels and all these different men teaching other men how to get laid, essentially. And I ended up going to a boot camp where men would teach other men the best ways to seduce, pick up women, et cetera, et cetera. Now, when I was at this boot camp, I started to see things from the men's point of view because there would be average guys, good jobs. I would even say some of them were significantly above average, getting rejected by overweight women. You know, they would go and approach a woman, just say hi to her, and she would just so rudely reject him. And it wasn't like the man was being creepy or disrespectful. He was just a normal guy. And so but some of the stuff I didn't necessarily know if it was true or not. You know, they said like women like the bad boys. Okay, well, let's go test it out. So when I was in England and I am playing volleyball, I recruit women from my show or from my team or just at the gym, wherever I would meet them, to come on my show. So during this time, I recruited the guest. I learned YouTube equipment. I did the thumbnails by myself. I didn't have any major company behind me. I end up messaging one guy who worked at the Daily Wire at the time. I messaged all these people trying to see, if I could get the best advice, strategy, whatever. End up getting in contact with a media manager at the Daily Wire. But, I would just get meetings with him, get help. He ends up like quitting. He's done his own thing for a while now. Anyway, so I end up making 10,000 videos in this time. My channel takes off. And at this point, I had like 20 employees. I had a bunch of recruiters. This became an operation and it happened within like a year, like 20 people working for me. The channel's huge. It got 1 billion views. Now, mind you, there's no big media company behind me. This all just happened. Like randomly. Now, I end up getting demonetized, and getting demonetized came with a ton of challenges. I was not prepared to be demonetized. In hindsight, that was so stupid. That was like the dumbest. Yeah, that was so dumb. I didn't have any backups, nothing. So I end up having to make a website. I end up having to move countries, couldn't afford London anymore. Main revenue source is gone. And it's been over a year, still not remonetized. Now we're keeping the lights on with YouTube or with subscribers on the website. Now, I want to talk about during this period when I did a show. Now, my show became one of the biggest shows in the country at the time. I interviewed over 1,000 women, which the first half I recruited myself. And I ended up getting asked to go on all these big shows like Pierce Morgan. I went on No Jumper, all these people that I watched for years. It was crazy. I went to the Daily Wire last year. And on the side, I'm also doing a documentary interviewing men that have been victims of divorce rape. So during this time, I got a really good idea of what was going on. I interviewed people from hundreds of countries. I've done panels in England or street interviews, Chicago, Miami, Vegas, Ireland. I've interviewed people straight from Africa, straight from Italy, straight from literally all over the world. So, do I know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about media being a hard job? You guys can decide for yourself. And I would still say that job, even though I did the recruiting myself in the beginning, we ended up getting people later, but in the beginning, did the recruiting myself, the editing myself, the production myself. I did all of it myself in the beginning. I learned how to do each individual piece until, we got to a certain point. Do I know what I'm talking about? I would still say that is easier than when I worked in sales for 2 years. And I would still say sales is a lot easier than other jobs. So the main thing that I look at is I like to point out patterns. I like to look at I like to look at societal and cultural trends and look for patterns of behavior. Now, I've noticed with the ladies in media, there is a particular pattern. And this pattern I've noticed because I cover a lot of stories of women in media. And I also would meet a lot of them and see how they lived their lives. So, one person that we talked about yesterday was Joy Taylor. Now, Joy Taylor was a media personality. She was in sports, and nobody could figure out how she got a job in sports knowing so much less than the men in her same position. Now, it recently came out that she was sleeping with everyone, and that does not surprise me in the least because, again, I have studied cultural trends, and many men have told me their stories speaking to women in the workplace or working with women, and that has happened before. Pearl interviewed people straight out of Compton. Yeah, I did interview people in like the hood of Milwaukee early in my career because the sales job was in Milwaukee, and I did do like a little bit of, interviews on the street. Now, I've made a list of the steps women take to become a media personality. Now, in general, there are exceptions to this rule, but in general, this tends to be what they do. Get a job working for a man. So usually when I see ladies that come up out of nowhere, there is a company that came up behind them. In conservative media, we have Candace Owens was with the Daily Wire. She was also with Turning Point. Amala was with PragerU. Brett Cooper was with the Daily Wire. Usually when ladies are in media, they have a tendency, not all, to not start their own thing. They have a tendency to work for someone else first. So oftentimes they will sleep with them for the job or be very hot and dress provocatively, and that's how they get the job. Obviously, conservative media, you're not going to do that. Or B, you don't sleep with him, but you're a woman with an opinion that is unpopular for women, or a minority with an opinion that's unpopular for minorities. Now, I can admit that a lot of the reason I'm in this position is because I have a tendency to agree with men on dating and culture. I tend to have a different opinion than most women. If I was a man with the same opinions, I probably would not have had 1 million followers in a year. That just wouldn't have happened. And I can admit that. I could have the humility to admit that without, it's not like I did no work. But let's be honest, the man doing the same thing, a man has to work 10 times harder. And I saw this with Myron. I mean, they interviewed double the amount of people I did. They were live 6 days a week at one point. I was live 4. I see why he lost his hair. Shout out to Fresh and Fit. And that just tends to be how it goes. So the step 2 is to get famous and be worshipped for all of your opinions. So being famous, I think a lot of times when you become famous, it's interesting. People will start in one sector and, because they're famous, we think they're credible on all these random topics. I try to, for the most part, stay in my lane, which is dating and culture. I will dip into politics at times, but that is my lane. But it's interesting, right? Brett Cooper, 22-year-old actress, 23-year-old actress, let's say she starts commenting on the war in the Middle East. What experience does she have, or Candace Owens have, that makes them credible to talk about the war in the Middle East? Now, I'm not hating them for it, right? Because I benefit from the same thing. But I'm not going to pretend this isn't what it is. It isn't much easier. It's not like you go on Piers Morgan and they bring in, a general from the Middle East who's worked in the military for 30 years and has the most credible opinion. It's who gets clicks, who gets views. And women just have a advantage in media. Now, I want to talk about how I learned women have an advantage in media. I managed both men and women. So I managed Christy and Grace. who's awesome, by the way. You guys should go check her out. She's still going in England. And I managed Troy Francis. We started channels for both of them. And they both tackled the issue of dating, culture. And, Troy was twice her age and he worked as a dating coach for like a decade. Her getting followers, views, likes was 10 times easier than Troy. And I'm not going to say Christy, she was a super hard worker. Like, she's great. She's awesome. I have nothing, like, only positive things, but one was 10 times easier than the other. Same, and this just is what it is. It's not bad or good. Women aren't bad for taking advantage of this. I mean, if you guys get a job, the male models that get jobs because they're very good looking, they don't say, hey, I am not doing this job out of principle because I'm ugly. No, the men are like, you know what? I will be a personal trainer and make a ton of money. I don't care. I'll do it. I'll be a model. So the next step is the women have a tendency, not all, to leave the company. Now, oftentimes there's 4 ways they leave: claiming unfair pay, claiming sexual harassment, start some sort of drama on the way out, or maybe a lawsuit, or go peacefully. Like Christine and I, we left. She's doing her own thing now because, after getting demonetized, I just couldn't do it anymore, managing talent. But she left peacefully. She's doing awesome. She didn't do any of these things. Some women do go peacefully, but a lot don't. You saw this with Sydney Watson. She claimed a sexual harassment lawsuit when she left the Blaze. You saw this with Candace Owens. There was a bunch of drama. See, there's a guy doing the hard job. If you hear that, we have construction going on, so it just is what it is. Brett Cooper, it's this big deal. She's unfollowing people, and I just look for the patterns. I look for the patterns of behavior. If a man got fired, nobody would care. That's the double standard. If Matt Walsh tomorrow got let go by the Daily Wire, it would not be that dramatic. Nobody would really feel bad for him. But with Brett and Candace, it's a big ordeal. It just is what it is. Now, 4, tell everyone you're a hard worker and that it was through your work ethic. You lecture the men on business and work ethic. You give your course, how to be successful, yada, yada, yada. Even though the way that a woman does it is 10 times easier than the men. Okay. 5, marry rich. I followed 50 conservative commentators and found the average net worth of their husband was like 5 or 6 million. So they got to marry rich. Definitely not in their 20s because that would stifle their career. Get married in their 30s. And it's not bad or good, by the way. I just point out. And if they do marry young, they have a tendency to wait till their late 20s for kids. Not bad or good, not bad or good. It's just more modern. It's not traditional. Then become a Karen and tell men they're not good enough. And to stop watching porn, even though no one knows what the ladies did in their 20s. Use the relationship for clout. Now, these are just the patterns that I see, like when they get married, it doesn't tend to be a private marriage. It tends to be a marriage for brand. Not bad or good, just not conservative. Okay. Now, let's talk about hard jobs. So I talk a lot on my show about how my dad is just like the hardest worker I've ever met in my life. My dad owned a software company and he worked 80 hours a week pretty much my whole life. And he would drive to the office at 3 a.m. to talk to people in India and they would code software. My dad, if anything was broken in the house, he would look up how to fix it himself. And, on top of that, I have an uncle and he's a farmer. And, I would go there and I would see him taking care of the cows. He learned how to fly himself. And you would just see how in an everyday, how hard those men work. You see the men that are construction workers, firemen, and you see how hard they work. Now, I decided to demonstrate this. I decided to do a hierarchy of hard jobs. So, at the top, so this is going to be the hardest. This is going to be the least hard. Because, the ladies always say they work so hard. Let's ask ourselves, who's doing what? Is it working? Yeah, okay. Who is doing what in these industries? So, at the top, these are the jobs that if you mess up, the result is your death, somebody else's death. Yeah, it's basically your death or somebody else's death. So we got logging, which is the #1 cause of workplace death in the United States. #2, crab fishermen, which we're going to talk about a little more later. Surgeons. If you're a heart surgeon, that's pretty intense, because it's one thing to work hard. But it's another thing to work hard with an intense amount of pressure where if you mess up, if you're human, if I say the wrong thing at work tomorrow, I can issue a retraction. If these guys do the wrong thing at work, they're done. They're cooked. The surgeon could get sued. The surgeon could lose his license. All for being human, for making a mistake. The crab fishermen, there's boats in Alaska where there are men that don't come back. They risk their lives to get us crabs. So again, when I hear podcasters saying that their job is so hard, I think, how dare you? How dare you take for granted the amazing job that we have? How dare you for a second say that this is too difficult? Now next, we got the plumbers, the linemen, and the doctors. Now, these are the jobs that the result of these jobs means thousands of people could be affected. So if a plumber does the wrong thing, like let's see he's the plumber on a city contracting job, the whole city could be mad at him. Imagine being that guy where you mess up and the whole entire crew is mad at you. That is a lot of pressure. You know that because of your actions, the city lost its water, its power, whatever. So again, when I hear streamers and podcasters saying they have a hard job, I think, how dare you? These guys have hard jobs. Next, we have the jobs where the result of your job is to protect the public. It can be dangerous, but they're not necessarily fearing their life every day by signing up. And you also could be legally liable for mistakes. So again, police officers, it varies. Now, I've done none of these jobs, I'd like to say. So you guys, if you have a disagreement on where it should go in the hierarchy, you're totally welcome to put it in the comments. Maybe one goes higher than the other. This was what I came up with. But police officers, if they make the wrong decision, they could be thrown in jail. Firemen, if they make the wrong choice, they could die in a burning building. Paramedics. Next, we have a job that is not necessarily dangerous, although it can be, but it's necessary to keep society going. This is garbage men, bricklayers, construction, and mailmen. Now, I know some construction is very difficult, but, if you're pouring concrete or something like that. Next, we're going to be the job is boring. And if you make a mistake, it would ruin your day, but nobody's going to die, right? It's a pretty boring job. You might be on your feet all day. So I put cashier, babysitter, assistant, sales, hairstylist. And last is the job that's actually fun. You can be passionate about it, and it's low risk. Now, these jobs are the most competitive because everybody wants them. If you follow the rules to be a plumber, most guys can do it. But there's very few successful musicians, comedians, OnlyFans models that actually make money. But the barrier to entry is nothing for these. I mean, anyone can really do it. So imagine when you're down here on the hierarchy of hard jobs. Like imagine a crab fisherman hearing you complain about how hard you are down here. It's like the audacity. And there was feedback saying that, okay, well, it takes a lot of mental energy and you have to be smart. Okay, sure. But even if we did white collar, we divided it between white collar and blue collar. It's way more difficult to be a lawyer, a surgeon. You have to go through school. Managing a hedge fund on Wall Street. Like, let's not pretend journalists are, So when I hear streamers, podcasters complain, I just can't take it. I can't do it. That's why, I didn't think it needed. I thought she would say, oh, I agree, Pearl, you're right. We shouldn't complain. I just said it off the cuff. No. I gotta, you hate women. Well. Someone said the streaming is harder than a 9 to 5. Now you could argue it's competitive, right? It is. I mean, there's a million people wanting to be streamers, but when I see the top streamers, I don't think any of them are crazy intelligent to the point that they weren't, some of them were just lucky. I was lucky. Candace was lucky. Right niche, right time, right person, right place, right contacts. Everyone would rather be a streamer. So, hold on. 90% of workplace deaths are men. Logging workers have the highest fatal injury worker in the United States with 100 deaths per 100,000 full-time workers. Other occupants with high fatal work injury rates include fishing and hunting workers, 75 deaths per 100,000, roofers, 57 deaths per 100,000 workers, refuse and recyclable material collectors, 41 deaths per 100,000 workers. However, the average fatality for all workers in all occupations in the United States include transportation incidents. 42% of occupational fatalities in 2021 were caused by roadway incidents. Falls, 16% of occupational fatalities in 2021 were caused by slips, trips, and falls. Homicides, 9% of occupational fatalities in 2021 were homicides. Truck drivers make up 20% of total workplace deaths, and 4 and 5 of those deaths were attributed to transportation incidents. Commercial pilots, about 3/4 of people who died on the job were commercial pilots. In 2022, women made up 4% of the logging workforce in the United States, while men made up 95.8% of the industry. The salary for male workers in the logging industries was $50,000, which was 1.9 times more than the average salary for female workers, which was $42,000. The forest sector has been historically male dominated. Even today, fewer than 20% of foresters in the United States are female. Women make up only 17% of the forestry sector. Now, I want you to ask yourself, again, the logger making $50,000 a year. Do you think he has any sympathy for the podcasters saying it's really hard to chase down stories, research online, follow the trends? The 4% were women bringing the men coffee. Now, I'm going to take a second to look at the website chat. Give me a second, guys. Are we live on the website? Okay, I don't know why it's not coming up for me. Give me a second. Oh, here we go. Okay, so we're going to check out the chat on the website. Dangerous jobs, air operations on a U.S. carrier. It's a floating airport where in a small space add fuels, bombs, missiles, jets, intakes, rotors, propellers, fires, weather, and oceans. Hard is relative. DM says hard is relative to the environment the person is raised in. I think you're referring to physical labor. Podcasting is mental. Well, not even. Hard is, going to law school and finishing. Hard, that's harder, I would say, than being a podcaster. Hard is becoming a surgeon and going to school for 15 years. If we're going to talk about mental hard. Now, again, it is competitive. It requires creativity. But I've lived it. Okay? I've put on a show. I've done all of the jobs at some point that you need to do to put on a show. And you will not convince me that it's harder than any of the jobs higher on the top half of that pyramid. You just won't. I disagree. And we're in such a privileged position as women to be in these jobs. And yet we still find a way to complain. Now, I want to compare and contrast the men talking about their jobs being hard. So I saw this video of a plumber talking about 5 reasons you shouldn't be a plumber.
You shouldn't become a plumber? Whew, I'm going for blood on this one. Let's talk about it.
I'm Kenny Molotov, licensed plumber, professional magician, and entertainer. On this channel, I go through the ins and outs of my career in plumbing. I take you through a day in the life, and we talk tools, theory, and mindset. I'm trying to give you an arsenal of knowledge and an online resource so you can take this trade head on.
If you're not cut out for it, you shouldn't go. There are some things that are very difficult about this career, and if you're not cut out for it, you shouldn't go into it. And that brings us to number 1. One of the reasons why you shouldn't become a plumber is because people aren't going to help you on the job site. Now, you are going to be given directions, you are going to be looked at over your shoulder, people are going to make sure that you're safe. But for the most part, when you're struggling, they're going to expect you to figure it out and get it done. Does that sound a little bit harsh to you? Like they expect you to put in the grunt work. They expect you to sweat. They expect you to get the task done because they themselves, the other people that are monitoring you and supervising you, also have tasks. It's not like they're sitting there twiddling their thumbs. No, you two are a team and they have a very difficult job themselves. Your journey person is going to have to do the hardest parts of the job. They're going to have to do the installation part of the job. They're going to have to do the soldering. They're going to have to get the job done. They got to supervise that it's done. They also have to make sure that they are up to code when it's done. They got to make sure everybody's safe. Like they have a lot of tasks themselves. If they turn and see you and you're struggling and you're working hard, a lot of the times they're just going to sit back and let you struggle and let you figure it. And if you can't handle that, if that doesn't sound like your cup of tea, then that's not something you should probably get into because that's the way it is throughout the entire career. And just so you know, it doesn't stop at the apprenticeship. There comes a point where you're a journey person and you're going to struggle and you're going to sweat And every single person around you, including the customer, is just going to sit back and watch you struggle. And the truth is that most of those people can't help you even if they wanted to help you. Do you understand? This is a difficult career, and you need to have a fortified mind to be able to move forward in it. So when you're in your apprenticeship and your journey person turns to you and sees you struggling and just lets it happen, that's not because they're evil. It's not because they don't care. The reason why they're doing that is because they had to do that themselves to get competent. And in order to make sure you become competent, they got to take their hands off the tools and let you sweat, let you cuss, let you figure it out. Another reason why you shouldn't become a plumber, reason number 2, is because people expect you to be good. Listen, they don't expect you to be all right. They don't expect you to be adequate. They expect you to be good. You're going to be expected to be an authority on the subject. You're going to be expected to be good enough to figure out the problem. That doesn't mean necessarily right then and there, but they are expecting you to have the mental problem-solving abilities to be able to get to the answer of this problem. This means sometimes you're not going to know the answer and you're going to have to call up the supplier, figure out if they have anything on the market that might suit the current situation. You might have to call the manufacturer of whatever it is you're working on to ask them why this certain event is taking place. You have to be wise enough. You got to be smart enough. You got to have problem-solving abilities enough. You got to have enough humility to be able to say, I don't know what's going on, and go figure it out. Without that, if you can't do the third reason why you shouldn't become a plumber is because people are going to call you on the weekends. Now, I know this might cut into your work-life balance. I totally appreciate that. And plumbers, when we get very good, we get calls on the weekend specifically for help, to help people out. That's something you have to understand. Inherently, by getting called on a weekend, a lot of that sometimes is one of the biggest compliments you can get because people know you're good and people know you have the answers and people know.
Okay. Now, the reason I brought this up is I want you to pay attention to the way he talks about his job. Even in a video where he hypothetically could be complaining, he's not complaining. He's saying, look, this is a difficult job. He's not saying, we work so hard. My life is so hard. He's saying, look, this is a hard job. You're going to be called on the weekends. And I want to compare and contrast. I have one more video I'm going to show you where Mike Rowe talks about the difficult jobs he talks about America's most dangerous jobs. Let me pull this up.
Sell dirty jobs in 2003 with no real success. And the network said, we do have something, though, that we're kind of curious about, which is crab fishing in the Bering Sea. Would you be interested in exploring that? And I said, yeah, sure. And they showed me some footage. Little boats, big water, cold, right? And so I flew from San Francisco to Seattle, Seattle to Anchorage, Anchorage, one of those little planes that become a statistic down in job number 7 or 8 there, called Pen Air, and they fly you to the middle of the Aleutian chain, and you land at Dutch Harbor, Alaska. And you get off the plane and you check into what looks like it might have been a motel once upon a time, and then you get on one of these boats and you start fishing, and then you realize what actual fishing really and truly is. 20, 30-foot seas, temperatures that can swing 40 degrees in 5 minutes. You want to talk about danger. I actually thought this was a misprint. You'll love this. They gave me an actuarial chart before I went out on the boat. 3 columns, injury rates, catastrophic injury rates.
Now, again, crab fishing, female conservative influencer.
And mortality rates. Now, I'm on this little Pen Air flight from Anchorage to Dutch, and it's sporty, right? I got a bush pilot up there, and he's like saying, all right, folks, hang on. We're going to give... Whenever you're landing and the pilot comes on and says, you know what? Let's give it a shot. Right? You can hear the sound of your sphincter slam shut. And you're just like, the pilot's going to give it a shot. Because like 40% of the flights that come into Dutch, they abort. They just turn back around and they land in Cold Bay or some other place because you're flying in between mountains and the wind is crazy. And so I'm on this plane being just up and down and back and forth, and I'm reading these actuarial charts, and I'm thinking, somebody's just fucking with me, and this can't be true. What do you think the injury rate is for a man who works on a crab boat for a full season, which is about, at that time in 2003, is 6 weeks? The injury rate.
20%?
Higher.
50.
Higher.
100%. Yeah, you're going to get injured on those type of jobs.
You are correct, Adam. 100%.
Yeah, that's why I don't
probability.
do those kind of things. I stay here on podcast.
And to be clear,
Even Adam says it. I don't do those things because they are harder. Easier, harder, easier, harder.
a couple of stitches, broken finger, right? A mild, contusion. You're going to get knocked around.
For sure.
Guaranteed. Catastrophic injury rate, 8%.
Wow. 6 weeks.
So, yeah, an iron pot's going to slide across an icy desk and shatter your pelvis. All right,
Jesus, Mike.
You're going to lose an eye. You're going to dislocate an elbow. A helicopter is going to come again, flown by one of these poor bastards down in category number 7, who's probably not going to make it back, to drag your ass off the boat, right, to some hospital. They're 8%.
Yeah.
Okay, the mortality rate, column 3, it's not even a percentage. They don't even give it a percentage number. 1 a week.
1 a week.
Right. Now,
1 a week.
So again,
Death?
So all to get us crabs. Just so Americans can eat crabs. 1 man dies a week. So again, I have family that served in the military. My boyfriend, he served in the military. He was on a boat. And it's like when you see men doing real jobs, doing the jobs that keep society running, you feel some type of way when you have conservative female influencers saying that their job's hard, complaining at all, saying that this is so difficult. I disagree. If you want to come at me because I disagree with you, fine. But this is the thing. So Joy Taylor spent all of those years in media, and everyone around her told her that she was oppressed. Everyone around her said that her job was really hard, that she had to work twice as hard as the men. And the thing is, when I actually managed men versus women in media, I saw a completely different perspective. We are absolutely at an advantage. It is stupid. And I'm grateful for it, right? I'm very thankful to you guys for allowing me to do what I do. But we have to have an honest conversation about this. The men have to be 10 times better to be in the same position that we are. Do you think there was a white guy that knew more than Candace Owens about conservative politics? That was not famous, but if you ask him about the history of anything, he knew more than her. Same with Brett Cooper. Same with Amala. Now, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. We're in the business of entertainment, so the audience gets to pick what's entertaining. But again, the men have to train 10 times as hard to get 10% or they have to work 10 times as hard to get 10% of the money, the credit, or the recognition. And we're out here living life on easy mode and complaining about it. Again, how dare you? How dare you complain at all? Never. And the thing is, when I talk about this stuff, I'm told I hate women. I'm told that I'm somehow evil for pointing this stuff out. And I get demonetized on YouTube for pointing out things that are true. They're true. Megyn Kelly did not have to be as good as her male counterparts to get the positions she got. She is a smart woman, but she did not have to be as good to interview the president. It just is what it is. If she was not attractive, she would not be in the same position. It's not right or wrong. It's not bad or good. But complain when there's one guy dying a week in Alaska on these boats to get you crab. Makes you seem pretty spoiled to me. I don't know.
One person statistically is going to die every week during the 6-week period of crab fishing on the Bering Sea. Now, people who watch that show, which by the way is now in its 20th season.
Is it Deadliest Catch?
This is Deadly. This is a show I've been narrating from the jump.
Yeah.
They know you can't script the Bering Sea. We know something bad is going to happen, but we don't know when. And in that first season, I spent 6 weeks up there. When I left, everybody I met, including me, had gotten injured. 8 and 10, or 8 out of 100, 8% had gotten seriously hurt. And I went to 6 funerals.
Wow.
The actuarial chart in 2003 for injury rates and mortality rates on the Bering Sea was not, in fact, an actuarial chart. It was a prophecy. And it came true 100%. And when I got back to the States and talked to my friends at Discovery, and we all looked at this footage, we realized that the question you're asking is not so different than what do people want to watch? Like what does satisfying curiosity really mean? What does discovery really mean? Is it limited to, how the universe works and planet Earth, or can we look at what it means to leave the cave and bring home the meat? Like, is that actually a thing you can do on television? And when we saw that footage and we saw real men, most of whom, the lower 48 doesn't know exist.
And the crazy thing is, I was looking for men in this job that were complaining online. Couldn't find them. The closest thing that I found was the one that I showed before, and he wasn't even complaining. He was saying, this is what's difficult about doing the job. How many complaints did I find about teachers? How many complaints did I find from women in marketing, human resources? I'm going to go through them in a second. But we are such a privileged class. Again, you're going to say I hate women because I point out that we cannot and do not have as hard of lives as men. That's true. That's true. And you can get mad at me for it. You can say I'm a woman hater because of it. But it doesn't make it any less true.
I mean, nobody had ever gone up there with cameras before, much less put them on a boat, much less get to know the deckhands and the greenhorns and the captains and live in the midst of that shitstorm. Nobody even knew it was happening. The Pribilof Islands, what are those? What do you mean you're 50 miles off the coast of Russia with 800-pound crab pots going over the rail? What do you mean you don't sleep for 48, 58, 70 hours at a time?
Oh my gosh, I could not. I did a 48-hour live stream once and I fell asleep. I did back in my streaming days. Wow.
What do you mean 6 people are going to die in the next 6 weeks? Like, all that stuff was unknown. And then all of a sudden, it was self-evident.
To order your Future Looks Bright hat,
Okay,
click over
so-
here.
Okay. Now, how do women fare in construction? 11% of the construction industry is women, and women only stay in the job for an average of 5 to 7 years. We have a tendency. So now it's interesting because I didn't find articles talking about crab fishing, about the guys complaining about crab fishing. But I did find an article talking about why nursing is super hard. 10 reasons why being a nurse is not easy. 1, you hold in your hands the start of life. Number 2, you have to be familiar with so many medical terms. 3, you have to be accountable for your actions. 4, isn't that? Okay. You have to see someone else suffer. You have to be altruistic. You have to be patient. You have to smile always. I mean, do you guys, again, do you hear? I want you to think of the perspective of that guy on a fishing boat in Alaska reading this article. Oh, you have to smile always. Okay. You don't have holidays. You get too attached and you hold in your hands the end of life. Now, we have the ladies on TikTok showing what a day in the life of a nurse looks like. Now, I'm going to compare and contrast this with the crab fisher.
Earliest memory, I never wanted to be anything but a nurse. I worked my whole life to have those 2 letters. Nurse is so incredibly difficult. Physically and emotionally, it is all-consuming. It is complex in ways that I'll never be able to describe and you'll never understand unless you are a nurse. From my earliest memory, I never wanted to be anything but a nurse. I worked my whole life to have those 2 letters follow my name. The irony that such a complicated profession is represented by just 2 letters will never be lost on me. Nursing has taken from me in many ways that I will never get back. And some days are so exhausting that I question why I became a nurse at all. And it's on those days that I remind myself of how bad I used to want to stand in the confident, capable nursing shoes that I get to stand in today. I would be so proud of how fiercely I care for my patients, and I have far surpassed many expectations that I have ever set for myself as a nurse, and for that I am so grateful. And unexpectedly, I am so proud of how hard I have fought to say that I love being a nurse, even when it doesn't love me back.
Now, why don't the guys in the same position make TikToks like this? Because they're working! Because they're doing the job. How hard can the job be if you can TikTok during it? Am I wrong for saying that? Okay, hold on. Allow. Now, let me go on YouTube. Oh my gosh. Ugh. We had tech issues. How will I survive this hard job? I know. Crab fishing videos. Okay. Now let's deadliest catch. I feel like it would help us to get a real vision of what these guys are doing. I think, is this Chrome or no? Safari? So this can go. Crab fishing. Deadliest catch. I want to get like a short from it. Boat, Alaska. Oh, here we go.
260.
And we are going to check the first spot. And the thing about the first spot is, whatever that pot has, the rest of them are probably going to have that. So if it's blank, then the rest of them are probably going to be blank.
Roger. Nice big.
I don't know. Looks more difficult than the nurse. Let's see. Oh, here we go. What is more difficult?
On the Saga.
Worse for us because all our equipment's wide open. All our personnel are right next to the starboard rail.
With winds increasing and seas building, moving thousands of pounds of metal across a slick deck makes a dangerous job downright deadly.
Hang on.
Gonna come down. Okay.
Hopefully the crab's here.
Light on deck!
No, no, no. Coming in.
Down.
Fully.
Okay, so, you know, run one stupid mistake, which we're all human. We get tired. We make mistakes. We're human. You could end up dead. Versus the female-dominated jobs, modeling, OnlyFans, cashiers are 70% women, assistants, majority women, hairstylists, majority women, babysitting, majority women, daycare, majority women. And then nursing, also majority women.
And a half hours. I was nonstop. I had 7 patients after my shift yesterday. 13 and a half hours. I was nonstop. I had 7 patients. The worst night of my entire nursing career. I know some nurses, especially those who work med-surg, work these types of shifts all the time. I don't understand how. Being the same floor is always like this. It's one of those floors where I literally cannot understand how that's anyone's staff job. But let me just rant off my 7 patient assignment to you. I had an NA to myself. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like that doesn't really make a difference that much. Sometimes it does. Number 1, independent, just request pain meds probably every 4 to 6 hours. Patient number 2 kept feeling like he was going to have seizures, and he did have a couple seizures. Needed to be like monitored, even Ativan. Patient number 3 woke up for a stroke seizure. He's confused, doesn't want his IV left in, puts off the bed alarm for NIH neuro assessment, and then at one point doesn't want to do any of it or respond. Don't know if it's serious or not. It's just being difficult, and then you have to call rapid. Patient number 4, Q2 turn, nonverbal, Q4 NIH neuro assessment on heparin. Number 5 was pretty easy, thank God. Patient number 6, Q4 neuro assessment, nonverbal, 2 turn. Continent needs to be changed every so often. Peg tube.
Now again, I'm not saying this is completely easy. I mean, she's still above us. She's still above the streamers, okay? She's still above the YouTubers. Where would you? I'm gonna put nurse. I'm gonna put that with construction, garbage, bricklayers. Would you guys say that's fair? Maybe it's harder than a cashier, I'd say. Yeah, I'm gonna put them in the middle. So you're not even at the bottom. But the guys at the top, they never complain, ever. Okay. Next, we got this one.
So I don't usually post this type of content, but I want to tell you guys how I feel so that if you feel like this way too, then you don't feel like you're alone, because I feel kind of alone right now. I had a really, really hard shift last night, and I was really scared, and I felt super incompetent, and I feel like I had no idea what I was doing, and I was terrified for my patient, and it was just really scary, and there was just so much going on, and I was terrified for her, and I didn't know if she was going to make it at one point, and it just sucked. It just really sucked, and I felt so stupid in front of everybody, but it's okay. My patient's okay. Like, I'm so thankful for my team. I could have never done it without them. They saved my life. Like, I love my nursing team. Oh my gosh, they're amazing.
I still have not seen the crab fisherman complaining. He saw one guy die a week. There's guys that do that every season. They do every, they're the captains of the boat. They keep signing up. I don't see them on TikTok crying. I just don't. I don't even see them offhandedly saying how hard they work. I just don't.
But I don't know. I almost like, it was hard not to like cry during it. I feel pretty numb right now and pretty stupid, just stupid and incompetent and embarrassed, but she's okay.
Men, one in the chat if you've ever felt stupid, incompetent, or embarrassed at work. That's part of work. Even me, look at, and by the way, I'd like to say I'm at the bottom. The bottom. Do you know, I've been embarrassed before. Hell yeah. I mean, even as someone that does a show, people make fun of my show all the time. Every day of my life. But you know what? I will never complain. I will never cry about it because I'm at the bottom of the pyramid. Know your place. Top of the pyramid. That's when you should complain. I know exactly. The audacity. The audacity. But the thing is, this is the challenge. We go through life being told, like, okay, I'm going to take Candace Owens, Brett Cooper, Amala. I could do this in other industries. I know my industry the best. Right-leaning, conservative women. None of them are as smart, including me, as our male counterparts. You guys know I'm the biggest fan of Rollo. He doesn't like me. I could see why. I could understand why, but I'm a huge fan. Huge. I think he's so intelligent. And he's done this 20 years. I have more like subscribers than him. It's okay. I'm not bragging, but you get a leg up. Ben Shapiro was an actual lawyer, managed a huge media company, cute conservative influencer who follows cultural trends. Totally fine. I do the same thing. Not wrong, not wrong, not wrong. But she doesn't have to work as hard as Ben. Candace doesn't have to work as hard as the men. Amala didn't have to work as hard as Dennis Prager. Totally okay. Totally fine. Not right, not wrong. But the men have to be 10 times as good to get 10% of the clout. And that's why men don't respect women's money, because it's so much easier for us to get it. You know, that's why I'm really not against women working. I'm really not. Because, okay, I'm thinking if you're a plumber and you could work 80 hours a week or work 40, and your wife could be a babysitter, a cashier, an assistant, sales, hairstylist, you guys could retire 20 years early. She gets the easy money, you get the hard money. What? I'm going to continue. Pearl, Shapiro and Prager are terrible examples. Look, you might not like Ben. I get it. People don't like him. But you have to admit, being a lawyer is harder than being an actress. I understand there's nepotism. I'm just asking, what is a more difficult job? Okay, you don't like Prager, you don't like Ben. They've still started a giant media company and managed a ton of people. I can tell you, managing people is hard. I did it. I did it like overnight. I got to roughly 20 employees at one point. That was the most stressed I've ever been. You guys saw me. I was pulling my hair out. Starting a media company, not easy. It's not. That is 10 times harder than being a female conservative influencer. And I can say it because I've done it. Because I've done it. Okay. Next off, we have teachers. We have why teaching is hard. Teaching is one of the hardest jobs in the world. As I am an English teacher, I am the one who experiences all the difficulties of it. Even though it gives you pleasure to teach something and transfer your knowledge from people, it really takes a lot of the things away from you. First of all, people must understand that we are also human beings. Thus, there are moments where teachers are unhappy and dismotivated. I thought I would say demotivated. Okay. But we should do our best not to reflect this to our teachers. They said, Pearl, we don't have to respect Ben. I didn't say you had to respect him. I said, okay, what's more difficult? What was a more difficult path? Lawyer, high-end law firm, actor. One could be more competitive. No, not a lawyer. There's so many people trying to be lawyers. But you could argue one has more people trying to do it, but that doesn't make it more difficult. Sorry, I'm going to continue. All right. Now, this teacher has the idea. Why would a teacher think that they have one of the most difficult jobs in America, in the world? Again, it's the delusion. That lady she slept her way up at Fox, Joy Taylor, and everyone had to pretend it was just as hard. The teachers have to do the same thing, where we all have to pretend that you work just as hard as everyone else, even though you get 3 months off of the year. I'm not saying it's unimportant. I'm not saying there are not challenges, but let's not pretend it is the same thing as the top of the hierarchy of hard jobs. Teaching is really hard, and many reasons for it, including the ones happening inside and outside the classroom. If I need to mention about the ones happening inside, it is really hard to communicate with people from different age groups and backgrounds. They may all have different problems. When I look at my students, I can see them completely busy with homework from school. I can't motivate them to study the English that I teach. When you work in private school, you have to make sure all your students are happy with their presence at the school, as they basically pay the money. This is another problem that puts teachers under pressure. As I said, many of my teenage students have a lot of homework, and it's hard to keep them motivated at my lessons. The same problem occurs with my adult students who are working in the same place, as they are working really hard. This can't be effective in the class. They can't be as effective in the class and feel down. When they come down with high expectations and can't make them happen because of the reasons I listed above, or maybe you're not a good teacher. Maybe isn't that possible too? They feel down, as once again, we are the ones who have to motivate them with our speeches and actions. You don't have to motivate them. You have to fail them if they don't do the work, and make sure you're teaching them the material. When you're doing what you are doing in private school is more than teaching. You can't just write down the rules on the board and leave the class. You have to be with them in all time. She then talks about how she has to be prepared. When we are talking about teaching specifically, that requires more effort from you. As teaching a language needs more than explaining rules. You have to show a lot of diversity in class to help your students have a good process in learning. Isn't that part of working? Being prepared for a job? Okay. Now I'm going to switch over and show you the TikToks of women complaining about how hard teaching is.
So a while back, I posted a video about how being an elementary teacher is dead-ass hard. There's no way I could do this for another 20 years. And so I'm reading the comments, asking people for advice, like, what do I teach? Because the middle school teachers are telling me that it's the same, nothing changes. And in fact, the high school teachers are telling me it gets worse. In shock. And as I'm reading these comments, I see a comment that centered with me, hit me in my soul. He said the reason being an elementary teacher is so hard is because they don't know how to be humans yet. If that ain't the truth, I'm about to tell you the story. So about a week ago, we had a new...
Do you know how to be a human if you're significantly overweight? I mean, am I the only one thinking that? Like, you obviously don't know how to feed yourself normal portion sizes.
Preschooler come in. Yeah, I know. It's April. Welcome to Teacher Life. And I understand these kids are like 4 and 5. And she's brand new. So this is probably the first time she's ever been in school. So I go over and I say, let me help you write your name on the back of your artwork. What's your name? She looks me in my eye and says, I don't know. I try again. I say, so what does your mommy call you at home? Like, what's your name? She literally said, I don't know. The little girl didn't know her own name. I expected a lot of things coming into elementary, but I did not expect that. And
again, you got one guy dying a week versus watching kids, a kid not knowing their own name.
This is how I know that comment could not be more true. They don't know how to be human. They don't know anything. They don't even know their name. And it's given me the grace to be more generous with these kids because they really just don't know. They don't know, and I get it's super beautiful. This is a beautiful age. How wonderful, how big of a blessing it is to be a part of this part of their development. Core memories, understanding life. I get it. It really is rewarding. It really is special. But man, it's so damn hard. It's so hard sometimes because these kids don't know how to be human. My God. Anyways.
I said you can't make this up. I know. I know. All right, we got one more. You know what? Here we go. Breaking down why teaching is hard right now for the people who are confused.
Okay, I feel like I have had a breakthrough and like figured out why teaching is so hard right now. And hopefully this can clear it up for people that are confused and why it's hard in general, but really why it's hard right now. So here it is. So in other jobs, people like work together and towards a common goal or like to create a product. Lots of people working together to create something else. However, as a teacher, like the product that you are creating is your students. Like you are literally morphing a person. That is the job. The job is to like morph a human. And like minimum 15 humans, maximum, like if you're like me, I teach middle school many periods, like 180 humans. Okay, and like in other morphing human jobs, like nutritionists or fitness coaches or nail techs or a hairstylist or a hairdresser, these are professions where paying adults are coming to those professions to be morphed. They want to be morphed, and they are paying adults who are going to sit quietly because they are like committed to the service that you are providing. They do not want you to mess it up, and they like trust you a lot to do it. But with school, you are morphing children. You are morphing children that most of the time don't want to be morphed. And like developmentally, it just makes sense that they would fight being morphed. They're like trying to find themselves, and they don't want to be there, and they want to do literally everything else. And they have to be there. And your job is to morph their minds and help them. So you're molding humans, lots of them. The humans are children, and the children that you're morphing and molding and helping don't really want that help.
Okay, so your job is hard because you have to do your job. I can't do this anymore. I just can't.
So that job as a teacher, that's just the job. And that makes sense. Like that's the job we signed up for. But it takes a lot of time and focused work.
You get 3 months off during the year. Who here wants 3 months off? You know, it's like, who here wants three, you know, who wants to, they get off at like 3 o'clock. My high school got off at 2:30. 2:30.
To do that. Because I mean, if you know anything about like changing a person, like that's like really hard. Okay, so when do we have that focused time? When do we have the time to create these engaging lessons that are going to mold their minds and to grade things and give feedback when we are being pulled during our planning periods, pulled during our lunch to cover things and do things and be places because there's a teaching and a sub shortage? When are we going to do that if there's so many standardized tests that while we're trying to mold their minds,
they not only have teachers now, they have teachers' assistants. They have 2 teachers.
Actually have to beginning, middle, and end of the year give these standardized tests for them to do well on them, but we can't morph them to do well on them because we're giving them. How are we morphing the humans if we don't have unencumbered work days to get better at our job? And how do we morph them if we don't have the money to pay to live a life that gives us the energy to morph them?
I mean, you have 3 months out of the year to drive Uber. Okay. That was years ago. Now you get off at 4 and the elementary kids get off at 3:30. Parents really don't want to watch their kids, huh? They're like, keep them longer. Do not send them back. Okay, I have like 3 other industries, but no, it's interesting because when men are asked the same question about their industry, they have a tendency to admit that this is not a difficult job. Now, you know, Candace is saying, you know, Pearl, it's just because you don't have an entertaining show. you just hit on women. I'm sure the people that don't do what you do, wouldn't agree with you. No. Well, let's see. Kai Cenat has jumped over. Was it Speed? I get them confused. He's one of the biggest streamers. One of these guys has jumped over a car on stream. Speed, yeah. It's crazy. They go to city. They are I don't get it. No offense. Like, shout out to you guys, but I don't understand why they're so famous. But you can't say they don't do an entertaining show. What do they say when is streaming harder? Is YouTubing harder than a 9 to 5?
I asked Speed this, and I remember one time he's like, streaming, is it harder than a 9 to 5?
Is streaming harder than a 9 to 5?
Yes.
No. Hell no. Streaming harder than a 9 to 5? Okay, let me give you.
So I hate women, but he says the same thing.
My results on it, right? So like,
have you ever had another job other than streaming?
No.
Okay.
Listen, let me tell you something, Shannon. Anybody who says that streaming is harder than 9 to 5 is an idiot. I work so hard on my streams.
Right.
It takes a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of hard planning. It takes a lot of you got to be in front of a camera for dozens of hours.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I understand that. You feel me? It's hard. You feel what I'm saying? In terms of like the skill that I at least do it on,
right,
and some people do it on, it's hard.
Right.
But harder than a 9 to 5, you're talking about somebody that may not even want to even be there.
Right.
I love streaming.
Yeah.
It's like, I think about it all the time.
And see, this is on the hierarchy of hard. The people at the bottom get to be passionate. We get to be creative. We're so lucky. The people at the top don't always have that luxury. They understand a job is a job. The other thing that men understand is that somebody has to do it. There's somebody, there are jobs, men know, okay, that's not a high paying job, but somebody has to step up and have to do it. And men are willing to sacrifice for the greater good of society. Not all. Many women are not. I mean, there are the women that go into the trades, like 7%. But it's not the majority.
I treat it as if it's like
it's a job, but you love it.
Yeah, but I love it. The average 9 to 5 worker don't want to be there.
Yeah, they ain't loving it.
Don't want to be there.
Yeah.
I remember I had to do something in the grocery store. I had to pack things, and I was like, damn, I don't want to be here. And like, man, and they had to find ways, and they're not even really getting paid. You get paid, and that shit's going straight to bills and taking care of the kids.
Yeah. Next, we have I Show Speed being asked the same thing.
Is streaming harder than having a 9 to 5?
Is streaming harder than having a 9 to 5?
Well, you never had one, so.
I mean, when I was 15, I did have a job, and I did.
What'd you do?
I worked, it was a caretaker home, where like you send your grandma and grandpa.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
I worked in the kitchen in a caretaker home.
Okay.
And I was like a server. I used to, give them the food and deliver their food. But, and let me tell you this. No. When I worked there, it was way harder. It's just draining,
Is streaming harder?
Okay, so they agree. Now, it was interesting because I just want to show the disparity in men versus women. And by the way, showing this stuff does not help me. It really doesn't, because, this benefits me too. But I like to be honest about this stuff. So Candace Owens interviews this guy on the USS Liberty. This got 5.4 million views. I'm going to show a male that did the same thing. Longer interview. Live streamed, which makes it more difficult, right? 18,000 views. Unfair. It's just life. Just life. You could say the same thing for me. Same thing. I had to delete most of my content, so I can't really. What a sad day. Feel free to go to theaudacitynetwork.com if you want me to become YouTube free. Say it with me, guys, YouTube free. But please let me in if you're watching YouTube. So I want to reiterate, we're going to do a call-in show so you guys can call in. We're going to take a quick pause for a second while I let people call in. We're going to put the Zoom link in the chat. And I want you guys to answer the question. Am I wrong for saying that media is an easy job? And do I hate women? Call in. I get a lot of criticism. I want to know, do I hate women? Am I wrong for saying that media is an easy job? Okay, guys, we're back. Wanted to make sure that the Zoom worked today, so I wanted to double check. So I'm going to read the comments on the website again. Normally, you guys have to pay for every comment you read on all these other channels that are monetized with super chats. Not here. I let you go on my website and $10 a month, $80 a year, unlimited reading. I read it. So all you have to do is put Pearl Read, and I will read your chat on the website. I have you guys put Pearl Read first, just because. And you guys, you can even roast me. I'll read it. I don't care. I don't discriminate. I'll allow it. The reason I say Pearl Read is sometimes you guys talk to each other and it's a little confusing. Okay, so these are going to take a second, so stay tuned. I am going to accept people on the Zoom also after this. Okay. Pearl Read, Mike Rowe is the godfather of hard work. Pearl, you are not evil for telling the truth. If the truth doesn't hurt, it's not the truth. Thank you. Curveball says, if nursing is hard, why do they cockblock men in hiring? Dane, my wife, the deedginator, was a refinery mechanic for 17 years for Chevron in Pascagoula, and for years she was the only female fabricator still on her tools. Dane says women don't want that job even though it offers $100K per year, which is enormous in this area. Women love saying we do the same job, yet I'd rather pay one male nurse $75K who can lift a patient alone than two $50K female nurses to lift the same one patient together. Dane, a female operator at her refinery, was killed years ago. A furnace blew up. She ran one way and the other operators ran another. She was barbecued and left behind 3 children. Remember, Deej is only 4'11" tall, but she handled it for years. She was the only woman. Chevron is begging for females, but the job isn't climate controlled. Dane, back in my shipbuilding days, I helped haul injured men out from the bottom of warships being built. I saw a man get half naked, I saw a man get his hand mashed off, but not off. It was mashed by a crane outrigger. I saw a mechanist one day get his toe chopped off by a falling steel plate. It landed behind his steel toe in his boots and chopped off all his toes. I literally witnessed that. Curveballs. I used to move around heavy freight while the women worked the ticket counter for higher pay. The daily gripe, sure, but pre-K isn't hard, just babysitting. It's like 97% females doing pre-K. Dane, I've had 2 knee surgeries and a rotator cuff repair from work injuries. The shoulder was a complete tear and a 1-inch separation between pieces. There was a suspicion that my bicep had also torn loose from the bone, but thank God it hadn't. Dane, Deej used to talk about women in other departments like operations, instrumentation, and whatever, who came in their full makeup and hair done. She'd say, they are not here to work. Dane, my brother had a big piece of pipe fall on his end and caught him about halfway down his shin and literally sliced him up the bone, down his ankle, and almost cut off his foot at the ankle. Pearl, Deej will tell you that there is big money. She makes my plate for dinner and she picks up my underwear off the bathroom floor without a complaint. She knows what's up, but most women don't. Johnny says, a woman doesn't see the glass half full or half empty. She just wants a bottle or a can or a jar. Gazelle says, I don't blame that kid for forgetting his name. Having someone who weighs 320 pounds leaning on your face with those whiskey glasses would scare the life out of a grown adult, let alone your kid. They said, Pearl, are you following back Audacity members on Twitter and X? Yeah, sure. Sure, I will. If you guys need to screenshot your membership and send it to me on Twitter, I'll follow you back. Okay. So we're going to start with Hannah. I don't have women call into the show much, obviously. So let's see. No, don't share the screen. Okay. I want to make sure there are people first. So just don't share the screen. She's fine now, but in general. Okay. Okay. Now we have Hannah. 1 second. Okay. Hello, Hannah.
Hi, Pearl. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Where are you calling from?
I'm calling. Hello. Oh, there we go.
Hi, Pearl. How are you? I'm good. How are you? Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Ogden, Utah.
Is that us or her? Do you have a YouTube playing in the background?
Ogden, Utah. I do.
Yeah. Make sure you pause it, and then I'll be able to hear you better.
Sorry. There we go. Awesome.
Okay, so you're in Utah?
I am.
Okay, so what is your thought on the topic? Am I wrong for bringing this up? Do I hate women? You agree, disagree?
Well, you reached out to me to call in because of your post on virgins and yesterday.
Oh, I'm sorry. We moved that topic to tomorrow. I forgot to tell you. I'm so sorry.
Oh.
Today we're talking about hard jobs, but tomorrow we're doing that same time.
Okay, well, maybe I should just call back in tomorrow.
Okay, do you have any thoughts on the topic at all?
Um, not necessarily. I've been in and out listening to some. I was like, oh, I don't know if there's like much that can be applied to this.
Okay.
So maybe I'll just call in tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you for calling in. I'm so sorry I forgot about that.
Oh no, you're good. No worries at all. Thanks.
Okay, thanks. Okay, next we have I'll let in my moderator, Doug MPA. He's gonna say hello. Doug, what's going on? No? Yeah, no, he can. Oh yeah, that's fine.
Okay, hello.
Doug, what's going on?
Yeah, yes, sir. Sorry about that.
You're okay.
Okay, so 1 second. Sorry, guys. I got to turn the YouTube off. I did the cardinal sin myself. Okay, so women in construction, women in tech, and a whole lot of male-dominated jobs. Because remember, modern women want credit for everything, even the smallest little thing. So you see women, oh yeah, girlies in tech, women in tech, but they're not actual software engineers. They're the project managers, the accounts receivable, all the things adjacent to it, but they want the same credit and claim to be in tech as engineers. It's the same thing as uh, construction. I had a friend who had a civil engineering degree. I'm sorry, guys, but biology is the female easy STEM degree, and civil engineering is the easy female engineering degree. Most female engineers are civil engineers, not electrical engineers, not mechanical engineers, not chemical engineers, civil engineers, right? And so these women are on the job site, and you see all these women. Oh yeah, women in construction. Breaking down all these barriers, but you have a clipboard. You're not swinging the hammers. You're not driving the tractors. Women want all the credit of the men doing the hard work, and they're not even actually in the industry themselves.
Where would you put civil engineers on the hierarchy of hard jobs?
I put it down with podcasters.
Wait, really? I don't know.
Yeah, because let me tell you what my friend.
No way. A civil engineering degree has got to be harder than.
No.
Okay.
No,
Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead.
You wanna know why?
I don't know.
Every single civil engineer I know, so my friend who's a civil engineer, they're building a building, right? And the building has to be built to a certain specification to match state and city regulations. So she goes through and makes sure that what's being built matches with city and state regulations. So she has her little air conditioned little office thing, and she walks around with a clipboard. That's all she does all day.
Wow.
All she does. And then I have another friend who works for the state and for state government, and she makes sure that she's a civil engineer, but she makes sure that like road crews get the supplies they need to actually lay down the concrete. So she sits in an office, and she just makes sure that the state is purchasing the right supplies based upon the demand of fixing roads. There's no civil engineer who's out there. I mean, there may be some, but most civil engineers aren't doing hands-on work. They're just not.
You know, I'm thinking I had a roommate that was an engineer, and she was civil. She was totally civil.
Yeah. Are you still connected with her? Could you ask her what she does? I guarantee you, she works for some kind of administration somewhere. She's in an air-conditioned office behind a computer typing stuff all day.
She's in an office. She totally is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then another thing that I'll get up here. Once again, women want credit for everything. On TikTok, there are women who are saying that there's a woman who has a Carhartt hat on, and she says that she deserves all the credit of the men building buildings, building bridges, building all these different things because she's pregnant and she's going to have a baby. And she's a single mom, no less. But because she can build a baby in her body, she deserves all the credit of these crab fishermen.
I
You know,
know.
the men on the roofs, drywallers. She literally has a 2-minute long TikTok saying this stuff.
Crazy. Insanity. Now again, I don't say that this stuff isn't competitive. You know, there's a million people that want to be YouTubers, actors, models, but difficulty level. You will not convince me it's anywhere near the top of my whiteboard. It is just not. Thank you very much for calling in, Doug. A pleasure as always.
Oh, it's good talking to you, my friend. Have a good one.
You too. I really would love to hear from the ladies. You guys have so much to say to me on Twitter. You really do. The ladies will say I hate women, that I'm just a woman hater, and they have no problem telling me this on Twitter. So come up. This is your invitation. Candace, it's an invitation to you too. I hate women, okay? I have never have anything nice to say about women ever. So, you know, it begs the question too, why in order to say something positive about women, why does it have to be better than men? If I say that men are better at things, in general, not all, nobody comes for, like, their automatic gut reaction is, but women. But women are better at things than children, per se. Not all. As a group, if we look at the data. If I hate women, let me know. Do I hate women? I'm going to bring up Trey Parks. I think I've seen him on Twitter. I need your video on, guys, because I need to make sure you guys are real people. Please make sure you have nothing playing in the background. Trey, how are you? Can't hear you right now. Is his side? Okay. All right, Trey. I'm going to have to drop you because I can't hear you. What? I'll give you I'm going to put you back in the waiting room, but I'm going to put on someone else. Okay. I'm going to go Elijah T. I'm going to just say you guys' first names. My bad. Okay, I need camera on. Okay, looks like he's ready to go. Hello, Elijah.
Hi, Pearl. Hi, everybody.
How are you? Where are you calling out of?
Listen, I'm from Germany. I'm from Dresden, Germany. I'm not the usual type of guy. I like to be calling into shows because I usually run and host my own shows, as you can maybe tell, maybe not, from the background, from the overlay. First off, mad props to what you're doing. I love the fact that you dare speak the truth in such a difficult political climate. And I wanted to chip in, if I may.
Go ahead.
All right. Well, listen, you were asking two things, and I find it difficult to answer both at the same time, because on the one hand, you were asking about like jobs in general, right? And the other question you brought up today was about like the difficulty of like podcasters and like content creators, people who stream, and maybe even particularly like for a living, because there's like the part-time streamer who does it, who sort of like enjoys part-time success and is kind of fine with like it going nowhere financially speaking. And then there's the other people who literally depend on this thing, like bringing in a steady revenue stream and literally have mouths to feed, like by way of what they're doing, streaming or content creating. So I want to differentiate those actually like three things, but to keep it short, first and foremost, I want to say you're 100% right. There's generally speaking, in terms of like the landscape of jobs, I see that women obviously have it easier, and the sole proof, like in my opinion, for why this is right, for why what you're saying, what you're advocating for is 100% correct, is because it's been exactly that way. That has been the general opinion for like about 99.9% of time of human existence. There was no debate over whether male dominated jobs were the more difficult ones as opposed to the female ones. There was no discussion. There was no debate about that. It was just like a given. It was clear, like as clear as the fact that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, right? Nobody was arguing. Nobody was challenging that thought because it was so obvious. It was so clear. It was so, I would say, like to a degree natural that it almost seemed crazy to even question that. Like how, what, like you must be mad to even question this premise. And only now, I want to say like from maybe the last 20, 30, 40 plus years, right? We've stepped into this new era of society where all of a sudden it has become sort of like fashionable, I want to even say, to say the most outlandish, daring things, because apparently we are now in this post-truth era. But even like mathematically speaking, like statistically speaking, right? Why would like a universal truth that had been true for the longest amount of time, all of a sudden, so abruptly, so definitively have ended? And why, if it has ended, does the world still revolve around men? And I don't want to even say, unfortunately, that's just the way it is, you know, because I don't want to frame it in any kind of way. I feel like that's been the way it has been. Whatever you believe, whoever you believe in, whether that's God, creation, some type of process of evolution or whatever, right? It has led us for millions of years to this place where society has not only evolved, but basically like established itself in a functioning way, in a way that has allowed us to reach heights of civilization, climb mountains, peaks, culturally speaking, technologically speaking, and so on and so forth. And now to put all of this in jeopardy just to be able to say, but no, like we've upheaved, upturned, you know, like groundbreaking, basically a loss of biology and society and time itself, just to be able to include everybody now, especially those who haven't been providing as much historically speaking. I mean, that's just outlandish to me. And it seems to me that people tend to say these things as in, you know, like we're all equals, as though we were, because obviously that's the fashionable, politically correct thing to do, to say these days. And some people who are overly politically correct, they even go beyond that. They not only claim that men and women are created equal, but they then say women are even better somehow for having been the lesser part for so many hundreds, maybe thousands of years, what have you, right? And I find it very difficult to argue with these kinds of people because, again, there's no proof, there's no basis for even like the most remote faint argument. Like realistically speaking, I find it difficult to approach these people, and yet it's necessary. And I want to bring it to a close. I find it so necessary because this, if we were to give in to these, let's say, unrealistic fantasy living people, right, we would endanger the core principles of our society. And so what you're doing as a podcaster, as a content creator, as a multiplier of information in an era where we have so much emphasis on this information war, is incredibly difficult. I get it. It's an easy job to do, like from the outside, when you look at it like superficially, oh, he's like in this AC room, right? He's well lit and he's just sitting in his armchair and he's talking and commenting and blah, blah, blah. And while that may be true, just a quick caveat at the very end there. So lots of people can comment, lots of people can podcast, but just the tiniest amount of people, the fewest amount possible, smallest amount possible, can actually break through. And that's what everybody aims for, those who start. But 99.9%, they will fail, right? And so basically, even the simple jobs, the podcasting, the content creation, right? You can do it, but getting back to having it be culturally important and financially viable to break through. That's the actual hard
Would you
part.
agree that that men have to work 10 times harder to break through than a woman in podcasting?
In terms of content creation, yeah, I love that example that you gave with who was it, Candace Owens, right?
Yeah.
So women enjoy a type of bonus, right, for being female and doing this like hard job and so on and so forth, because obviously like well, there's a double standard there. Let's just say it, right?
Well, it's
That's
more
not to shit all
rare.
over Candace, but
Yeah, it's more rare, right? Like a woman with conservative opinions is rare, where a man with conservative opinions is common. So one is going to be paid more even if they're not as knowledgeable.
yeah, there's the
Yeah.
novelty that comes with
Yeah.
it for sure. The fact that you're a little bit more exclusive when, as a woman, you present yourself that way.
Mhm.
But still, I mean, regardless of any topic, right? I mean, like, I find that women, like, check your Instagrams, right? You'll see women, even if they say nothing of interest at all, post like totally below average pictures. Sometimes even they get like 10 times, 20 times, 30
Yeah.
times, 50 times the clicks, the likes, the comments, the interaction, and so on and so forth. That's the way the world works. But if you're assuming that that's as it is and it is right the way it is, and there's an advantage that females have, why not say that there are advantages that men have? And for being able to enjoy these advantages, that comes with a price. And the price is you take on the responsibility. You want to have the reins, right? You want to have the power. You want to have the responsibility. All right. But it comes with strings attached. And that's, you have to do the hard jobs. You have to let people walk over you, all over you, especially in this culture, in this climate, and yet still stand for it, right? Still say, I'm a man, right? I have to rise above that, right? That can't hold me down. That's been, historically speaking, always been my role. Be a strong man first, and then maybe if you're like the exceptional man, even be a leader, and then go from there, right? That's your role in the world, and just live with it.
Well, thank you very much for calling in. Germany, I can't believe
you
we
so
got
much.
people watching over there. Nice to meet you.
Oh, well, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, nice to meet you too.
Nice to
Thank you for
meet
everything
you.
you do, and keep streaming. I love
Thank you.
watching your content. Whenever I find it, I always click. So
Thank
thank you
you.
for that.
Thank you. Next, we're gonna
A good one.
have you too. Okay, guys, did you see how he came in? He had his mics ready. Oh, what did I do? No, I don't want to. Don't report. Okay, he had his mic ready. He's ready to go. That's ideally what you guys will do. Your camera somewhere I can see you, so you're not walking around, right? Sit down. I understand you guys are doing other things. You're kind of waiting to get in. I get it. You don't know if you're going to get picked. I've been there. I've been on the other end. But if you can do that. We're going to try Yassine. It might be all the ladies that say I hate women, now is your time. Now is your time to shine. Let's see. Is he coming in? See, he's connected now, right? His camera's off. I need camera on, guys. I'm going to put you back in the waiting room. Hopefully, we're going to go to someone that's got their camera on. Next, Phil. There he is. Hello. Oh, we'll give you a second to connect. It says you're still connecting the audio. Camera on. This is Omegle.
Or maybe is that better?
Oh, I can hear you now. Hello, how are you?
Good. How about you?
I'm good. Where are you calling out of?
Western New York.
Oh, cool.
I was a teacher, and if that was one subject career you brought up, and I mean, I had plenty to complain about, but I just couldn't do it. It was too hard. I was a truck driver. I did a lot of different careers, but I finally, I spent 30 years doing technology, and that was getting kind of crazy. I went back to driving truck. I was making better money. I didn't have all the headaches of dealing with the people every day. Any kind of public service work, or even just, sales. I mean, you said you did sales. It's tough, dealing with people all the time. But I mean, I always say to people, well, why do you think they're paying you? Because you wouldn't do it for free. That's why
Yeah.
they pay you. Because it's things people, don't want to just do in their everyday life. So, did you have any other specific topics? I'm new to this. I mean, I've been watching you a little
Yeah,
while, but
so the question was, am I wrong for bringing up that our jobs are more difficult, or sorry, our jobs are easier than the guys? Because I just
no,
keep getting that I hate women, that, I'm wrong for this. And I just wanted to know the audience's thoughts.
well, I tried to write you a little bit in just through emails about I do this cognitive therapy stuff,
Mhm.
and it really puts this distinction mostly on men and women, because women tend to think more about all the headaches and all the problems, like, and you've talked about this, the
Mm.
fears and with all the bad things that could happen,
Mhm.
where, if you're more right brained, you think which men are, you tend to just say, hey, what am I getting out of this? Is this worth the trouble? And that's why we don't complain as much. We have all those same thoughts. We just don't focus on them,
Mhm.
because yeah, these things could happen, but they don't always happen. And it's sort of a stress coping thing with people too, is what do you call that, venting or whatever.
Yeah.
You get aggravated and you want to say, oh, this person, oh my God,
Mhm.
it, that kind of releases some of that stress. But the real way you release it is by just getting a resolution in your own mind about, look, I chose this path. If I don't want to do it, I can maybe try something else.
Mhm.
So I'm getting older now. That's why I went back to driving truck, because I'm nearing retirement. So I just don't want to start something new at this point.
Mhm.
But I think with women, with you hating women, see, that's when you're saying something critical about somebody, it kind of immediately launches this defense mechanism everybody has.
Mhm.
Oh, I'm not like that. What do you mean? Well, maybe this other person is. And it really comes down to, are you looking at the world through, the way people see you, or are you looking at how you see yourself?
Mhm.
Because if you have a strong self-worth, you're not going to care what anybody says about you. I mean, they kind of call that self-confidence, but it's not really that. It's more just having confidence enough to say, well, I know what I do. Some people would call me a loser if I'm just a truck driver. Well, like you're talking about how women have these high standards, maybe sometimes higher than
Mhm.
men. But that's just the choices they make. It's all free will. We all have a free will to choose and do what we want.
Mhm.
The question is, are you going to blame the world, or are you going to blame yourself? And the real answer is to not blame either one. You make decisions, you see what happens, and then you just move forward. Now, as far as people hating you, I could see why they hate you. It's pretty clear to me. I mean, just seeing the texts and everything, and hearing some of the comments you've made, and it's no difference with you and a lot of other
Mhm.
commentators, especially the people who have been banned.
Mhm.
Like I've never hear anybody mention this one comedian, because I think you can't even mention him. This guy that's in Idaho, I don't know if you know him, and he got banned about 8 years ago, which was Owen Benjamin. Do you know him? He's a comedian,
Sounds
and
really
all he did was,
familiar. Go ahead.
well, he spoke up against the giving children hormones back when they started doing that, and he was immediately banned from every platform, and he's still suffering for it.
Mhm.
So there's always going to be people who don't like the way you think or do things. So you just have to go forward and say, well, is this a path I want to go down? And it gets more true with religions and, stronger belief systems. But you just have to, make a choice. You make a choice, and you take the heat. And if you don't like it, you leave the kitchen, right? And
Yeah.
go something else. I mean, I'm a little nervous. I don't want to say anything inappropriate for YouTube. You know what I'm saying?
So you said you were a teacher, a trucker, and what was the third job? You worked in tech?
Yeah, for like 25, 30 years. I liked it, and it was pretty male dominated. But you know what I really turned me off is when people started getting into the phones. I was working at a college, and I saw this transition right at the time where everybody just was staring at their phones constantly, and all this social media. I really think social media is really destroying our society, because it's giving an outlet to that thing I mentioned earlier. This kind of judgmental fear that you look at the world and this kind of, oh, this person hates me, this person likes me. And that's part of the left brain stuff. As you're looking for acceptance, you want people to appreciate you and to give you positive feedback. And then if you're thinking like that a lot, when you don't get it, you get, what do they say, butt hurt, or you know what I mean? You get all this
Yeah.
kind of pain about, well, what am I doing wrong? And it's like, well, maybe you're not doing anything wrong. So when you say, these people hate on you, they're going to, because what you're doing is you're like uncovering a lie,
Yeah.
right? Whenever you tell somebody the truth, either if they're disposed to hear the truth, they're going to say, yeah, I understand, I do that. It's kind of humility. And if they want to know how to change, they will make an effort to change, but they usually don't want to change. And I've done all this mental health work where I got a little frustrated with that, because that's what it came down to was, do you want to get better? Do you want to change? Well, here's some steps to change. And people would do these things. This thing I got involved with was from 80 years ago, and it was very, very well received. But as soon as drugs started coming into the picture, people are just doing that now. They're nervous, they pop a pill,
It's
or have a
easier.
drink or whatever,
Yeah.
drugs. So
What
go ahead. I'm
what
sorry.
would you say out of the 3 jobs that you did was the most difficult? Like,
that one that I wasn't getting paid for, that was the most difficult. It was doing all this mental health work, because it's sort of the same as teaching. You're trying to help these people, like that one comment or video you play where she says, oh, you're forming people and you're shaping people. Yeah, you can only shape them if they want to be shaped.
yeah.
So you're just arguing with them. They say, what you always hear is like, well, you know why I can't do that? Because my dad beat me, or, whatever. You can make a laundry list, we call it, right?
Yeah.
You make a laundry list of why these people don't like you, or why it's so hard. But none of that. And see, I hate to even get into this a little bit, but it's really the difference between Freudian thinking, which is kind of dominating our culture right now, which is telling everybody that they're a victim. That's where this whole victim narrative comes out of. Because it's this idea that it's not your fault. Like I've seen some videos where they do counseling like that, and they just go, "It's not your fault. It's not your fault," and then you repeat it and repeat it, and you'll accept it for a minute and say, "Yeah, you're right. It's not my fault." But if you're already decided and thinking you're in your inner being that it is your fault, or I made these bad choices, or whatever, you're going to always think that way, and then you end up kind of being in this victim narrative world where, well, I can't get ahead because of this, and I can't. Well, why? What is ahead? What are you eating? Do you have a home? Where are your standards at? I mean, like you talked some of that about these higher value men or whatever,
Yeah.
or women. They have a certain standard that they want to live and be, and that's the other thing you're running up against is there's this big denial with women, and you've talked about this quite a bit, and I'm really impressed by it. They get to be 30 something years old and they go, I'm just as hot as a 20 something. Well, okay, you can believe that. And that's, well, go ahead. You want to live and believe that. You're going to be disappointed when you see the guy you married you because you were super hot, and now you're not so super hot, and now he's looking at girls that look like you used to look.
Yeah.
Well, that's why you took him, because you thought he had all this deep love for you. But it's just everybody's shallow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're all shallow. Nobody has this great depth that we think, and it's a part of a curse of our culture now too. It's just this thinking that, knowing is not. I mean, knowing information is not the same as kind of incorporating it into your being. Like I was having a conversation earlier with a friend about littering, and I used to get real mad at people who littered. All right. And so I started by never littering. Okay. But I still got real aggravated with people litter everywhere. And then I had a sister-in-law. We were hiking through this beautiful part of the forest in Vermont. And there was all this garbage all over. And I go, doesn't this drive you crazy, all this garbage? And she says, yeah, but I go, well, what do it's ruining our hike. And she says, well, I just pick up garbage when I hike. And I said, oh, you're going to go around and pick up garbage. what are you going to bring bags? She goes, no, there's bags right here already. All those grocery bags are
Yeah.
all everywhere.
Yeah.
And she would just pick up a bag and take some of it out.
Mhm.
So you kind of have to do that with your own character,
Mhm.
right? When you see this crap that's making you miserable or people are attacking you, whatever, you have to kind of put them in the bag and just, put them outside of there. And it's going to happen. You just have to predispose it's going to happen. So I'm
Mhm.
sorry, I keep monopolizing the conversation.
That's
But you
okay.
are going to, if you keep going down this path, which I think is wonderful, because you're speaking truth.
Mhm.
That's really the bottom line. Am I lying? And that's one thing this other comedian does a lot. He says, I may be wrong, but I'm not lying. Right? Because he does daily podcasts because he got booted off everything.
Yeah.
So that's a good philosophy. Is like, just if you can focus on just being true to yourself and what you believe and try not to hurt other people, then you're doing 90% more than the rest of the world, because you're making an effort to make things better instead of just what's that line? See the light instead of cursing the darkness. I
Yeah.
forget that. I'm sorry. So yeah, as far as you hating women, no, I think what you're actually doing is loving women, because you're speaking truth to them. It's sort of with anybody, with your friends or your family. Say, look, if you can get a moment and say, hey, when you do this or the other that, you really piss people off. I mean, if that's your goal, then you're succeeding. I mean, as long as you're not doing it for that reason,
Mhm.
you're fine. You're speaking truth.
Mhm.
And 90% of the people say, "Oh, Pearl's a jerk," but there's a few people out there listening to you that'll say, "I kind of thought that's what was happening," and it reinforces the good. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? You're actually helping.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry about being so.
No, you're okay. You're fine.
Well, did you have any other thoughts you might want me to respond to?
No, I think that was pretty much it, but I really liked your commentary. Calling again.
Thanks, Pearl. And I'm a daily watcher, and I haven't been a long viewer. Let me just say about your stuff. First time I saw you was doing the stuff in Britain, and then I caught some of the replays of the street stuff because you did that first, right? The
Yeah.
street stuff,
Yeah.
and then from there I actually got into watching some of those whatever shows,
Oh yeah.
and so I love Andrew. I mean, and see,
Oh,
he's a
he's
perfect.
hilarious. He's hilarious.
He's a right brain person. And that's what you see, a perfect demonstration there between these people who think with their left brain, the women, which is the average, women tend to be more left brain, and him saying, well, wait, what are you saying that, you can have the standard, but the men can't? And they're trying
Yeah.
to just show them truth, right? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's when you can observe stuff like that, it really helps you to understand that dynamic. It's not that you're going to change it, but what you are going to do is understand it better, and you'll have less pain, and you'll be a little more understanding about the way other people think. And I just think you're great, and I don't know, the whatever's cool. It's kind of, I always say it's shooting fish in a barrel, right?
I know.
It's
I
just more
used to do it. I had to quit. I couldn't. I couldn't
fun.
argue
What I
it.
mean,
What?
stressing,
What?
right? There was incredible stress, right?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah. It was too much. I couldn't. I just couldn't hear another woman tell me Lizzo was hot. I just couldn't do it.
Yeah, that's not true, but if they think it's true, I remember I love when Andrew Day says, "Well, how do you rate yourself?" And they all go, "Oh, I'm a 10. I'm a 10." And then they get back to him and he goes, "Well, I'm a 10. All these girls are," and they laugh.
Yeah.
They laugh. He goes, "Why?" And he does it on purpose, right? Well, why are you laughing at me? Because they want the freedom to just be subjective and say whatever they want. But if you do it, then they mock you, right? They mock you that you're being subjective. So I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I see
No,
him.
you're totally fine.
But I love your show, and I'm actually only can see it now because right now when I'm driving, I work 12-hour days, and I work like 5-6 days a week,
Mm.
and it's right when you're on. So only time I usually can catch is like right now. I'm just happen to be off. So, but keep it up and try not to get discouraged. And I'll send you a bill for this counseling session. Keep it up. I mean, you don't let anybody discourage you, be selective about who you take advice from, because there's going to be people that want to discourage you and people that are going to encourage you. Most people just be neutral, I don't care.
Yeah.
Trust, how it is. The people you trust in your life and that give you good feedback, then those are the ones that want to lift you up versus the people that just want to kind of, oh, you're screwing up, So
Yeah.
anyway,
Well,
yeah, I better hang up.
thank you so much, Phil. Feel free to call in anytime. And thanks for, transporting the goods in this country. Appreciate it.
Fuel.
Fuel. Yeah, we all need that. So thank you.
Kinda. I didn't get any kind of break during COVID. I worked straight through because we were essential stuff.
Yeah. You guys work hard. You guys work very hard. Thank you
But
very
I love doing it. I love contributing to society, and that's another way to look at things, right?
Yeah.
Like a teacher, cop, or anything.
Yeah.
Thanks. I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you so much. Okay. Okay, next we're gonna try Trey Parks again. Camera on. Where are the ladies? You ladies have been killing me on Twitter. You've been killing me. Where are you guys at? Let's see. Let's try Trey. Hello, Trey.
Girl, how are you?
Good. How are you? Can you put your camera on the table? There you go.
This way. There we go.
Yeah.
We got
Are
it now.
are you Trey from Twitter?
Yes.
Oh,
Trey Parks,
that's
Friday
you.
15.
How are you, sir? I always see
I'm
you in my
doing-
replies.
Oh wow, I didn't think that you even see my replies.
No,
or
I
anything
see you
like that.
simping all the time, right? That's you.
Yeah, I'm going hard trying to win Simp of the Year for 25.
Okay. Let me have it. Why do I hate the women?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yes. My problem. First, it's very nice to be on with you. I'm glad we were able to finally have this dialogue.
Okay.
My problem with you, Pearl, is the fact that you don't believe in salvation. You like to say that Jesus can forgive, but men don't. I strongly disagree, especially as a Christian. We are called to forgive people. I also think you were very mean and unchristlike in the whole Catfish of the Year awards. Every single one of those women looked better in their non-catfish pictures.
That is
than
not true.
their
It would
catfish
not have
pictures.
gone viral if they looked better. It would not have gone viral. That is just simply not true.
I think
Do you
a
want me
lot of
to?
them did.
I'm gonna bring it up in a second, but okay. So let me. Are they gonna see my
we can
screen if
tackle
I?
that one first.
Are they gonna see my screen if I move? No, they won't. Oh. Oh, that's amazing. I wanted to write down your disagreements so I remembered them. Okay, so all right. So the first disagreement is the forgiveness. Okay.
Right.
And then the catfish of the year. Okay, keep going.
Yeah. And then also, you can call me a simp, and that's fine. I wear it with a badge of honor. But I'm such a simp, Pearl, that I even defended you on the whole 16-year-olds are being hotter than the 26-year-olds tweet. You were absolutely right, and you shouldn't have deleted it. I stand with you on that. So you can even say that, yeah, I agree with you on some things. But my number one disagreement with you is when it comes to your attacks on Nala. That was
Okay.
probably
Yeah, you're a Nala.
what
You're a Nala
really
guy.
that's
Okay,
yeah, that's
so
what probably really got my attention, and maybe you saw my replies to you when it comes to Nala. She is a good Christian woman.
okay. So how do I know if somebody is really sorry?
I would tell by their actions.
Okay.
Jesus, in the Bible, we can tell that someone is truly sorry just by the way that they carry themselves. We judge them by their fruits, and she does display the fruit of the spirit, and that's what Paul mentioned in Galatians 5:22, the fruit of the spirit. So that's how I can tell if someone is
How
sorry.
would you say that she is displaying the fruit of the spirit? What is she doing that would display that?
She's being kind, patient, loving, self-controlled. And I believe those are 5 aspects of the fruit of the spirit: gentle, kindness, patience, self-control. And so, yeah.
So how is
that's
she
how I
how is
can
she
say by that.
specifically doing that? Other
Okay,
than
just
other than, you know, going on podcasts and talking, it's
hmm
not a difficult thing to do. Anyone can say things, right?
all right.
I could
The
go tomorrow.
stuff
You know, I've been offered like to talk at churches before. Don't know why. It's been they just give it to anyone, I guess. And
I guess so. I wouldn't say those are the right churches.
it's not that difficult. So other than speaking, you
So
know, there's con men that have spoken at churches, and you know,
I agree.
so
I
okay.
agree with you completely. There has been a lot of people that will say that they are saved. They can talk a big game, but your actions have to justify it. And so I can only judge by her actions. But my opinion, well, it's true. What's done in the dark, what comes to light. So if she's not really about that Christian life, really not about that Christian walk, it's going to be revealed over time. All I can say is just what she is specifically doing now, which is she has changed her whole social media account now. She is now sharing Bible verses, actually sharing the gospel with people, trying to get other people to repent from that life of OnlyFans to come to Christ. And that one response that she had to Laura Loomer, it was just spot on. Like she
Okay.
just takes all these attacks, she just takes it on the chin, still have a smile on her face, say, you know what, I'm gonna pray for you. And that should be
Okay.
our Christian response.
So if I tomorrow I start tweeting Bible verses and I tell people repent, I tweet it and I smile. That's the requirements to be a good Christian. That's it. That's all I. No,
No,
no, no, no. I'm hearing
the
what you're
re-
saying. I said to
okay.
list the
The
actions.
requirement the
I'm
requirement to
ready
be
to
a good
tweet.
Christian
I want the
is to
Christian simps, you know. I'm ready.
the requirements to be a good Christian is to really share the gospel. So yeah, you can post Bible verses. That is part, I would think, sharing the gospel, but actually having those one-on-one conversations with people and telling people how a Christian should be, but more so walking the walk instead of talking the talk. Your walk has to
Okay.
talk louder
So
than
if she's sharing Bible verses that are incorrect and she's misinterpreting things, would
Mhm.
that be an indication that she's not reading the Bible like she says she is? And maybe she's not ready to preach.
she's still a babe in Christ. So I don't believe in women pastors anyway. Like women shouldn't preach at all. Like
Okay.
Paul made it clear in Timothy that women shouldn't preach. So I'm not all for the women preachers and stuff like that. So that's not what women should be doing. But also, we are all called to evangelize. So if she's evangelizing, which is sharing the gospel, that's what we're all called to
Okay.
do. None of
But
us,
I'm
all of us as
okay,
Christians
but
are
if
supposed to do
somebody
that.
is looking at Christianity and they're getting the wrong information,
hmm
could that be more harmful for them converting? If she's saying Christianity is this is the interpretation of the Bible verse, and somebody's looking at converting, and me, I'm not overly religious, and if I could say that's not true, that's incorrect, wouldn't you say that deters people from converting and doesn't help them?
It would. I would agree with that. But what Bible verse is she getting incorrect? Because Scripture is for correcting, and we are supposed to study to show ourselves approved. And Scripture, a lot of people throughout time has misinterpreted Scripture to say, "Oh, the Bible actually says this," but no, it actually says this.
Mhm.
Even though I'm a Baptist Christian, you got other denominations that are under Protestant, as that's what people
Mhm.
call it,
The
and
next
and
the
they think they
Mhm.
misinterpret things like people still believe speaking in tongues is a thing, which is not. People
Right.
still believe in prophecy that, oh, these people are prophets and they're not.
Right, right.
That's heresy.
Yeah, okay. So the next reason I don't believe her, she doesn't dress modestly. Again, this is
Okay.
something that's easy, right? That's a very easy to do.
hmm
You know, it's long sleeve shirt, pants, skirt. It's not a difficult thing.
You're dressing like you dress very modesty, and I
And
appreciate that.
it's not
And that would
hard. I'm not perfect with it, right? But it's not that hard to overall be a more and she had a TikTok like 3 days ago where she's got no bra on and she's in booty shorts. So
I didn't see that one at
I could pull it
all.
up.
If she did do that, I would say that is wrong, and
And you would
I'm
maybe
not.
question it? Would you question it if that was true? Her
Yeah,
sincerity?
especially as if I was her husband, that's when her husband should check her because women are supposed to submit to the men. So her husband should tell her, "Yo, that's not how a Christian's supposed to dress. That's not how I want my wife to dress." So I would definitely call that out as being wrong, 100%, if that is how she dressed.
On top of that, she's in spandex on the Whatever podcast.
Mhm.
Wouldn't you say that's a bit? Now, look, I'm not a Puritan, right? I don't really care
Right.
about spandex, but I know they're not modest.
Mhm.
I'm not going to
Yeah,
play pretend here and say that it's not modest.
the wardrobe thing is something that she still has to correct. She's still a babe in Christ. She's only been saved for like a year now. So
You could do that
I still struggle
tomorrow.
too with sin, and I still fall short on a lot of things too. So, but I would
But
say
that's
that
the
is wrong, and she should dress more modesty. I would agree with you on that. But to say that she's not a Christian, to say that she's not saved, I think that's taking it too far because I can say that just
yeah.
just based on how she has acted, just by what her life has changed. I do believe that her life has
Yeah.
changed,
No,
and we are still growing. None of us are fully
yeah.
purified, sanctified until Christ calls us home.
Yeah,
We're all going to
I
struggle.
disagree. I don't think her life has changed at all. The reason I disagree is because now instead of OnlyFans, she's streaming like 5 hours a day. She didn't go do a real job. She got a guy to bail her out, which that's what they tend to do. She didn't go on her own. She didn't go to a missionary for 2 years. On top of that, she did raise her OnlyFans prices after she was baptized. She's not dressing modestly after she was baptized. She's misquoting scripture. So to me, I don't think I'm wrong for not believing her because to me, none of her actions match what she's saying to be true. What I'm talking about is when she was on Whatever and she misquoted the Trinity.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't see that part. I'll have to look that up. Andrew is a pretty good debater, and so I'm pretty sure Andrew may have tripped her up. It's kind of hard when you're a babe in Christ and you're trying to tell a man that has probably been studying scripture for I don't know for how long. I disagree with him on a lot of things. He's Orthodox, I'm Protestant. We can have that debate. I would love to talk to him one day, but that is kind of a hard
Yeah.
sell to take. But I don't think she misquoted the Trinity. If she believes that Jesus Christ is the Son of God and is God, and then we have the Holy Spirit that lives with us right now, there's three components of the Trinity. And if she's saying that, oh, Jesus isn't God, that would be wrong. But I do believe she believes that Jesus is God.
Yeah. I think that her actions don't match her words. She's also was really disrespectful. There was zero humility on Whatever when she was debating with Andrew. I've seen him debate women that I would believe to be more Christian before. She was rude, she was disrespectful, she was talking back. So, no, I don't think it's immoral for me to not believe her, and I actually think that Christian men lack discernment, and that is why you have female pastors, is because you guys believe anything.
Well, some men do lack discernment.
I think you're one of them. I like you, but I think you're one of them. I won't lie to you.
I think I have pretty good discernment. Like I can tell when someone. Well, it's just the fact that I believe in what Jesus has taught us, and so for me to really become a Christian, for me to really walk the Christian walk, I have to take you at your word. At the end of the day, only Jesus is going to know. When she's at the bema seat of judgment and she's standing before God, He is going to be the one to know if what she did was really for Him or was it wood, hay, and stubble.
Wait, why do I have to? What is the Bible verse that says I have to take someone for their word?
It's just that we're taking them at their action. Jesus, I would say that
she raised her OnlyFans prices after she was baptized. The only reason she deleted them is because I started a campaign against her. I think she would have kept it as long as she could.
I know that she said something about how the OnlyFans, how she couldn't delete it right off the bat, and I guess you still got to get money for it or whatever from it.
Why did she still have chats going? There's active. I saw the chats. I was in
saw the
one.
episode
I
that you
got
had
into
with that
it.
one guy that came with the receipts from it. I did see that episode of it, but at the end of the day, I don't know if that was actually true. I do know that the way that she is living now, we can all improve. But as for when you ask the Bible verse that says that we should take people at their word, I know Jesus, there is a Bible verse that judge not, and and we won't be judged. But at the same point, we are to judge, but we are to judge righteously. So I can judge her from her action, and we first must take the beam out of our own eye before we can judge. That's what Jesus said in Matthew.
Okay, so I
We
can't.
are to get the beam out of our own eye
Okay, so
first
I
before we
can't
can judge.
identify at this point. You can't even identify that somebody's doing something wrong without being told you're wrong. Like, I can't even say she's half naked. Yo, guys, she's in spandex. I don't know if she believes this stuff. She can't do the bare. She can't do the bare minimum.
But
The bare minimum.
At the same point, she is still a babe in Christ. I believe that's more so on her husband to check her on that. Like, hey,
She was a
you shouldn't be
pastor's
wearing
kid.
this. But at the end of the day,
Oh, come on. She was a pastor's kid. She knows this. This woman grew up was the daughter of a pastor. You don't think that she knows the Bible, that she's been taught this, that she knows she's supposed to be modest.
See, a lot of women these days, I've seen a lot of women that are Christian that don't dress the way that I think they should dress as a Christian.
Because you guys accept
I wouldn't have my
it.
wife dress like that. And that's just something that's wrong with the church, and that's something that the church we have to correct as Christians, and the men as being the head, because the man is supposed to submit to God and the woman is supposed to submit to her husband. So if her being a married woman, she should submit to her husband, and that means her husband should be telling her, "Hey, you don't supposed to dress like that." And her husband should be the one on these podcasts, sharing the gospel, well, quoting scripture and doing that. And I'm sure they do their own Bible studies. But at the end of the day, I do still believe her. She just needs some more work done,
Yeah.
And we're none of us are finished products. I'm in Bible school now.
I don't believe her at all.
I don't know everything.
So so you're saying am I immoral because I don't believe her?
I don't think you're immoral. I just think that as a fellow Christian, I can tell you that, hey, we should show more grace to her since she is a babe in Christ. We should help her on her walk with Christ instead of just condemn. You're like, you're doing this wrong. You're doing this wrong. You're doing this wrong.
No, I'm saying
there's a way to
wear
do
a bra.
it, but
wear a bra. Please wear a bra. Please, God.
Truth and love.
Pants. Pants.
I told you I said you were wrong in the way that you were treating her. I believe that is wrong.
Okay, well,
but as for her actual actions, if you want me to tell you like this specific action is wrong, I think that you were wrong to say that she misquoted the Trinity. I think that she does believe Jesus is God. She probably just said it the wrong way.
Yeah,
So
I think you guys
believe you're wrong.
I think you guys give the benefit of the doubt to everything. And I think that this mindset is what deters people from Christianity today. So I actually think this is part of the problem, because even here we can't treat women as adults because we still are blaming her immodesty on her husband for not correcting her. She's an adult.
She is an adult, and sometimes if I was an unsaved person and I saw someone that is purportedly to be a Christian doing something that isn't Christ-like, that is an area that Jesus said, hey, we're not supposed to be the reason that anyone stumbles or preventing anyone from being saved. So if she is a stepping block on that, believe me, Jesus will check her on that when she's at the bema seat of judgment. But right now, I can say that I do believe that she is walking the walk. She just has to get better at it. And that's when it comes to submitting truly to her husband. Yes, women are responsible for their actions, but as a Christian woman that is married to a Christian man, she should be submitting to her husband, and her husband should be the one checking her. Yes, she's still responsible for her actions, but her man should be doing better too. I know that if she was my wife, she wouldn't be wearing spandex.
What would you do? So, okay, let's role play this. Let's role play.
Okay.
Let's pretend. Okay, I'm in the spandex. What are you gonna do?
I'm gonna say that's not what you are supposed to wear. You,
I
as
want,
my wife, I don't
no,
want you dressed like that. You
I'll
are
wear,
causing other men to sin.
I don't
And
care.
as your husband,
Don't care at all.
that's not how you are going to dress.
I don't care. Now what?
If she said, but see, I don't think that she would do that. Like, I know I wouldn't marry a woman that wouldn't respect me or respect my authority.
I said I would respect it before the marriage. Now it's after.
Now it's after
Yeah,
the
now
marriage,
it's after, and I
okay,
changed my
so now it's
mind.
after the marriage, and all of a
Yeah,
sudden
I
she
changed my
switches
mind.
it up.
Yeah, changed my mind.
That would cause a problem. We would go to the elders of the church, and I would take that to the
Okay.
elders of the
Let's
church
role play with the
and
elders.
say, my wife is
Okay.
not being responsible. She's causing other men to sin.
Can I pretend to be the elder? Well, it's your fault.
Okay.
Why didn't you lead her to God?
I did a great job leading her to Christ, and she is still not doing what she is supposed to do. But
Well, you should just lead her. No, you
should.
should just lead her better. Just lead her better. It's your fault. Sent back home.
I'll lead her better, and I will still submit to God, the
now we're
official
back
authority in Christ. But I will continue to love her, and I will continue to disciple her. But as the elder of the church and as the pastor, I need some backup on this. I need you to back this up for me and to let her know that what she is doing is causing other people to sin, to fall short.
Okay. Let's be the church elder. Let's be the church elder now. Now I'm the wife. Pretend you're the church elder. What would you say?
Okay, as the elder of the church, I would tell you as the wife of the husband that, hey, in Corinthians, Paul says women are to dress modesty. Now, spandex, I understand that there is a time to wear spandex, but wear that in the confines of your home. Do not go outside wearing spandexes if it is causing other men to sin or causing other people to look at you as not a Christian, because you are a representation of him, your husband. And if your husband tells you not to wear this, you need to respect his authority as the wife. And as his authority comes from God, you should respect it.
I totally will. Now watch me. I go home, I do the same thing.
I really believe that
you can't control another person.
You can say I'm gullible. Maybe you can say I'm gullible, Simp, but I really believe that women that are truly saved, truly walking with Christ, if they are corrected on that, I believe that they would change. I don't know her husband even corrected her on it. Her husband might not think anything's wrong with it. And if so, that's on him. He needs to tell her that that's wrong.
Yeah.
He tells her that is wrong and she still does it, then that would be a red flag.
If that was true, why don't I see a difference in behavior of Christian women and other women? I don't see any difference.
There are lots of great Christian women out there. I can name a few of them. Allie Beth Stuckey, Liz Wheeler, who is a Catholic. I disagree with her on Catholicism, but there are lots of good women out there. Lala Rose. There are plenty of good Christian women out there that are.
I don't find them to be any different than that of liberal women. And to prove this, I actually tracked down their age of first marriage, number of kids, like the same as other women. I don't find them to be kind. I don't find them to be any different. I just find them to virtue signal harder.
Okay, so how do you want them to be? How are they supposed to be different? Because I believe that they are different just from the fact that they are saved. They are being good traditional wives and actually.
How do you know?
You know, submitting to their husband.
How do you know?
Just from the way that they act. I don't know them personally, so I can only judge by their actions.
So why would you white knight for someone you don't know personally?
Because as a Christian, I'm going to take them for their word, and I'm just going to go with it. And if they do turn out to be not what they say they are, I can say, well, guess what? You know, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt as a Christian, as a Christian man. And so I'm going to take them for their word. And I don't think I'm going to be held responsible if someone, they're not my wife.
That's my point. See right there. That's exactly my point. You're not the one that's going to suffer the consequences. No, that's exactly right.
But
That's exactly why.
I could if I end up marrying the wrong
You
woman.
will.
If
I
end
could
up marrying the
tell.
wrong
You
woman.
will. She'll get one over on you.
No, she won't. I believe
Okay.
strongly that when
I
God puts
gotta
the right
move
woman,
on to the next person. This was a good call. Thank you for calling in, but I do gotta move on.
Thank you, Pearl. It's great to talk to you.
Yeah,
Take care.
nice to
God
meet
bless
you.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. I've had so many people. I do appreciate Trey for calling in. But what I would love is for the people, the ladies that are coming at me on Twitter. Where are they coming? We're gonna have one more caller because let me go to the website really quick. I'm gonna read the stream on the website, okay? And then we're gonna go to the next caller. So Eli, give me 1 second. I'm gonna read the website and then I'm gonna go to you. Okay, so we got Pearl Reed. Do you read comments from previous podcasts? Sometimes on my phone. Not on it depends where it's at. Let's see. Deej wants to talk on the call and she's under my name. Okay, we can bring her. I'll make an exception for you, Dane. I'll make an exception. You guys are okay. Pearl, society was in bad shape before social media, or it wouldn't have had negative effects. It does. Morality was already degraded long before Twitter or Instagram. Pearl, do you think Jesus was a simp just because he saved an adulteress from being stoned to death? He was following law, which required witnesses. There were none. These OnlyFans hoes have many. Blah, blah, blah. I was raised in a church my whole life. Then I turned my back on the church and was involved in pornography, both in front of the camera and behind the camera. That said, I'm with you, Pearl. Pearl, women have more power over shaping society because of their huge influence on men. We rise to whatever level they settle for, and us sad but true. Women can help make men heroes or scumbags. Pearl, modern Christianity has emasculated God and created a patriarchal society because men and women have different duties in his design for human existence. Hello, Eli. Am I saying it right, Eli?
Yes. Can you hear me clearly?
Yeah, I can. Where are you calling from?
So I'm from the UK. Just to give some sort of description, I also do some YouTube videos. I've interviewed Cenk Uygur, Destiny, David Pacman, some other people.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I saw you were going live and you were doing these call-ins, so I thought I'd just jump on.
Sure. So the question is, do I hate women? I have two questions. You can pick one to answer. Okay. I have one that's, do I hate women? And the other is, am I wrong for pointing out that men do, if we pull up the camera, can I show them this on the Zoom or no? I had a hierarchy of hard jobs, that men do the more difficult jobs and that we do the easier jobs.
So, okay, so let's talk about that. So women do a lot of good jobs, don't they? And healthcare is predominantly dominated by women, wouldn't you say?
The nurses, sure. But I would say that, we talked about crab fishermen. 1 man die on those boats a week. So what 80% of the crew gets injured.
Sure. So men do more physical jobs.
They also do the most difficult jobs, like surgeons are mostly men, but the presidents have been all men.
Well, yeah, I mean, in the UK, it's getting more women.
Yeah.
How many prime minister women has there been? 3?
Yeah, I don't know.
So,
I don't follow
so
UK
what do you?
politics.
So I saw a clip of you saying that you don't support women. What do you think about women voting? I want to ask you about that.
Can't talk about it on YouTube. I wish I could.
Oh, really? Will it get demonetized?
Yeah, that was one of the things. So I can't talk about that on YouTube.
Okay, so talk about men and women generally then.
Yeah.
So what's your thoughts on it generally?
On voting, I can't talk about it on YouTube.
No, not on specifically voting, but on men versus women, because like the 2 points that you mentioned beforehand.
I think that men do the more difficult jobs in society. For example, they make 80% of the world's stuff. They do most of the transportation. If nurses went away tomorrow, the healthcare industry would keep going forward. Men would learn to do those jobs. Women couldn't learn the jobs men do or do them.
So what about education? Education is predominantly dominated by women as well.
Yeah, and IQ drops every year. Yeah, and they complain incessantly saying they have the hardest jobs in the world. And I don't think it's near as hard as the men that are truckers, plumbers, electricians. They get 3 months off in the summer. So I'm not saying it's not needed. I think it's harder than, say, my job. But that's what sparked this conversation was Candace Owens had a clip saying that podcasting was a super hard job. I don't believe it's true. And I think it's 10 times easier as a woman than a man being a podcaster. And I think this because I manage talent for men and women, and women would have 1/10 of the life experience or credentials or knowledge on a topic. And as the men, and the women would have more followers. I think I've benefited from this myself.
Yeah, I mean, like, so that you've got experience with that, so you would know better than me. But in terms of, let's say, healthcare or education or social service, I mean, those all of those predominantly dominated by women. And now, like you said, men do have different style jobs. Men have more violent jobs. Men die more on jobs. But I mean, they're different roles. I mean, the whole point of this is that you can't treat men and women the same.
81% of surgeons are men. It's a lot.
Okay.
It's a lot easier to hook up an IV than do surgery.
So what's your point out of all of this? So you're saying there's differences between men and women. Of course, we agree on that. What's your point?
That we complain more about it. I've never seen a man complaining about crab fishing. I didn't even know what it was. But if women were in those conditions, they would be striking. There's no way. So we do less and complain more.
No, but I don't know if a woman would be complaining more if she was in such a condition, but men aren't they more physically attuned? It's like they're able to do more physical jobs anyway.
Well, even the mental ones, like there's no female chess champion. That's mental. There's no physicality.
Are there no female chess champions?
No,
Really?
all the men are the top ones. A man but identified as trans went into the women's tournament and won. So I just look at industries, and most of the industries we complain about, it's majority females working. Education, we complain about a lot here. That's mostly women. Healthcare, they've started to complain about. Women have come in.
And what about in terms of abuse? That many women get abused.
I don't believe them.
Really?
Not at all. I believe like out of women that say they were abused, I believe like 5%.
No.
The reason I don't believe them is because the thing is family court has made it so easy for women to throw accusations of abuse because they've changed the definition. The definition used to be, you hit me, I didn't hit you back. Right? I didn't start it. I didn't hit you first. You hit me, didn't hit you back. Now they've included things like financial abuse, and I've seen court documents where the man doesn't give her as much money as she wants to spend. And now he's a financial abuser. Emotional abuse I've had women tell me that they were physically abused, and it turns out he was pushing her out of his house because she was trespassing, because he didn't want her there. She wasn't welcome. It was like someone
but this is specifically family court, not abuse in general.
Yeah, so the second question I usually ask is, did you file it in family court or criminal court? And most of them do it in family. Most people, when you hear a woman claim she was abused, you feel bad. Like, I don't want to, it's kind of awkward to be like, okay, oh, I was abused. And to be like, okay, give me all the, rattle off these questions. But usually if you ask them, their stories fall apart. And that's what I found was I used to just believe them because I would feel bad. I wouldn't think people would lie about that. But then when I would ask them like 2 or 3 questions, one of them being, where did you file the case? Usually, the story fell apart.
So what about not like not in a place where people would raise it up in court, but more, just being treated differently? I mean, you said you'll probably talk. You would probably say, some men treat women more positively in some ways, but a lot of ways don't men also abuse women on a different level? So like I saw a video, I think it was today or the other day, of a man going undercover as a woman going down the streets of New York on the city in the night, and it was horrendous in terms of how much abuse and how much weird comments he was getting from other men.
Well, men are more likely to be victims of a violent crime.
But are women more likely to be victims of rape or of other abuse?
What
Sexual abuse.
men couldn't even file rape charges until a couple years ago. Legally, they couldn't even file it in most places. Like there was no male rape. It was just female. And the other thing is, it depends on if it was sexual assault or rape, because sexual assault, again, they changed the definition of the word. So they expand it to include a lot of things.
So when I'm talking about do people face this on a daily basis, I'm talking about sexual assault, not rape. So of course rape is much less, but sexual assault, don't women face this a lot?
I don't think so, but if you ask women, they might say that. I really
Well, I
haven't,
didn't think so.
because I've never really had that problem. I've never, it's just never been a big thing for me. I went to work, nobody did anything, but I was also a professional, so.
Okay, so putting all of this together, what do you think would be the ideal position of a man in life and a woman in life? Do you think a woman should stay at home, or what do you think the ideal position would be?
I think there's no ideal, and it depends on the person, because I've met some women that would be terrible mothers, and I pray to God they don't have children. So I'm not in that camp. I pray. They're too irresponsible. So
yeah,
there's some women I pray get their tubes tied. So I'm not in that camp, but it depends on the woman.
Okay, well, I think that's sensible. I mean, you don't think like women should stay at home and men should go out and work, like by default.
I think
it's up to.
If you have kids, you should try. I mean, I would recommend trying to stay home, but it's not always an option. No, I'm not anti-work, because if a man could retire 20 years earlier from his wife working part-time, why would she not work if she's I talk one of the most common jobs is an assistant. You can do that online. So you can work.
Yeah, and those that's dominated by females as well.
Assistant, yeah, that's on. I don't know if you can see my board. Can he see? No,
I can't see board.
I don't think we can switch it with the Zoom, but I had a hierarchy of hard jobs, and I put my job at the bottom. To be fair, YouTubers, streamers, it's competitive, meaning a lot of people want to do it, but difficult. No, we're not going to die. But the hardest jobs, death has to be on the other side if you make a mistake. That's what I put at the top. So the president, you might get shot. Ours almost did, 6 months ago. A surgeon or someone else will die. So a surgeon, you're doing heart surgery, you make a mistake, they'll die. That's a lot of pressure. That's pretty hard. So that was at the top. Me,
But,
if I say something wrong, I can issue a retraction tomorrow. No one's gonna kill me.
I mean, I would generally say, I can see why it's saying surgeon's very high, president's very high. But I would say educational, social services, one of the highest in terms of actually making sure, we've got a good generation, and we've got, really, really clever, important people teaching people about business to help grow the economy in the future.
How many kids?
I'll be very interested as well to see. You said education is going worse every year, so I'll be very interested to hear the statistics on that.
How many kids does social services lose every year? I don't actually know. I've heard that before. I don't actually know it's true.
What do you mean by lose?
Hold on. How many? I hear they lose track of kids in foster care. Tens of thousands have simply disappeared from foster care, according to several recent reports. My family's done adoption on both ends, where I have a brother that was given up, and we adopted two later. And our experience with social services definitely was not that they were overly competent people. My experience
So you're
with
talking
teachers,
about the management or the woman?
the people that we worked with. So, but
Yeah,
I
I
don't
think.
think I just don't think the barrier for entry is as hard. I don't think it's as difficult as a surgeon.
Oh, it might not be. The barrier to entry might not be as hard, but the actual the sector is vital. It might not be as dangerous, but it's really vital for the country.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Well, education isn't vital.
I don't think they do a very good job because
No, but
IQ is dropping every year. I think
is
it's
that actually
vital.
true?
Yeah.
Let me check. A second. Let's check. Let's check online. I can't see any proof of that.
IQ last 100 years. Last chart I saw it was dropping. Oh, I guess you're right. Okay, I'll concede that.
Maybe women are doing a good job in education then.
I don't think so.
What would convince you?
If the people coming out of education were smart, and I don't find them to be overly intelligent, especially when they're increasing the number of degrees in basket weaving or similar things like gender studies.
Basket weaving. I've never heard of that one.
You've heard of gender studies?
Sorry, for some reason you're not coming up, and I can't see you. Wait a second. Oh, here you are. I have heard of gender studies. What do they teach about different genders?
Yeah, it's the study of our gender.
I'm sure you would love to go to such a class.
I would actually. I think it'd be hilarious.
Well, why didn't you go and do a video about it?
I've thought about it actually, but it's like a cost benefit analysis.
What's the?
I don't want to pay for it. I don't want to pay for it. Like, I don't want to. Those are expensive.
But you can't really criticize something without knowing in depth what's wrong with it.
Well, I can look at the average income for people with those degrees, and I can look at what they did at the company that I worked at. And it was pretty
Which
much.
company did you work at? What's your experience with this?
I was actually the DEI person at my company. I know I had to give like a PowerPoint on. It was so long ago. I'm trying to remember, but they made me like either a minority or a woman had to be it at my company, and you had to give a PowerPoint on not getting harassed at work and some BS.
So let me ask you a question about all these. I presume you've seen that EU, I think, said a couple of years ago that they want companies to be more diverse in terms of reaching a certain number of women or a percentage. They need to hit a certain quota.
Yeah, terrible.
And I'm like 40% or something on the board.
Yeah.
If we go back and you see, let's say, black or women or different people that used to be much more abused. I don't know if you would agree with that, but it's pretty obvious that it used to be much more abused. Now it's much less. And they actually want to go about in life, and they don't have many positions in those jobs. How do you think that they should get there? I know, of course, it's based on skill, right? You need to have good skill. But if I'm just trying to work out and look at the different sides and trying to understand the side that if there's not many black people have been in this position, how do you encourage more people to get there, and how do you how do you really diversify it properly?
I think you should apply like everybody else.
No, I understand that, but I'm just trying to formulate the
If I
question properly.
hire an editor tomorrow,
Yeah.
I think it would be better for me to post the job and see who has the best edits.
So do you think a company that's more diverse is more efficient? Or does it make a difference? It's all about skill. Just about skill.
I would say skill.
Because I've seen statistics that say that diversity actually helps improve productivity in companies.
I doubt it. I mean, there might be a stat,
Well,
but
so
I
which
doubt.
polls, which statistics would you believe?
I doubt that's true.
So which
The
polls or
ones,
statistics?
if you see a statistic that doesn't follow what you've seen in, where did he go? I guess he left. What I was gonna say is, if you see a statistic that doesn't follow what you see in real life, are you going to believe it? I wouldn't, but I think it's pretty foolish to just believe. Now, I'm not saying no stats are valid. I'm not saying none are. But if I get a stat, like if I had a statistic in front of me that said my dog is a cat, should I believe it just because it's a stat? Anyways. I'm gonna let Dane in. Or I think he said his wife wanted to call in, so I'm gonna let him in. Hello, I've heard so much about you. Oh, she's connecting to the audio. Hello.
Hello.
I've heard so much about you. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm really enjoying talking to you. Excited about the chance. This is not what I came here to talk about, but I did want to address Nala and that issue. I was, open-minded until I saw her on the whatever podcast, and you're completely right about her. I shout it from the rooftops. Do not back down. She is not. There was nothing in her demeanor that was repentant. She was belligerent. She was rebellious. She was aggressive. So I saw nothing in her that looked like regret, shame, repentance. And everything that you've pointed out, one thing would be, okay, she okay, maybe she's not up on scripture, but when you look at the whole of it, it all says, no, this is not a repentant woman. But that's not what I came here to talk about. I came here to talk about the job fields that you talk about, and the difficulty. And I worked, I'm sure Dana's talked about this a lot, but I worked in industry for 18 years, if you include the shipyard that I worked at. I worked at a shipyard for a year, and then I worked in a refinery for 17 years after that. And when I say I worked in a refinery, I was not in an office. I was not in planning. I was climbing columns. I was operating, small cranes, forklifts, doing, very physical work. We would have to climb, 30-foot columns on a vertical ladder and get to the top of the column and pull up a bucket that had 30 pounds of tools in it on a rope. Sometimes. So the impacts that we would use to take flanges apart would weigh 10, 12, 15 pounds. So it was a very physical job. And when, and I'm a very small woman, I'm 4'11".
And fine. I just gotta say, she's 4'11" and fine. I ain't scared to simp her. I ain't scared to simp.
Women say that they can do these jobs, and they're full of crap. They don't have any idea what they're talking about. They've probably never even seen the work, much less done it. It is not an easy thing to do for anyone And it's even harder for women to do. Our bodies weren't made for that kind of work. Now, I love the work that I did, and I worked very hard. I'm very strong considering my size, and we had tools to help us. I had cranes when there were things that I couldn't physically lift. We had forklifts to move things. So it wasn't like it was all brute strength, but it's hard. It's hard, and it's not just the physical work. Just being, in a refinery for 10 hours every day, and you can't go home, and you have to get out there and do the job. It is mentally grueling. It is emotionally grueling, and women, by and large, like they just their minds aren't they're not strong enough for that, really. I mean, I'm sure, like me, you've seen women on the whatever podcast, and they'll start whining that they haven't had a snack after they've been there for a few hours. They can't, they're complaining because it's past their bedtime. But they say that they can go work on a roof somewhere, and it's just not true. And I've witnessed it. And I've also worked in a male dominated field around men most of the time for probably, I'd say, 8 or 9 years. I was the only woman in my department. Now, there were other women in the refinery, but we were the minority. But I was the only one in the fabricator position where we did pipe. We worked on pipe and structures, and it was just me for a very long time. The idea that if you show up in a male dominated world that you're going to be instantly sexually harassed is it's ludicrous. It really isn't. And the idea that you're going to be just hounded and made fun of, and it's they're not going to behave like that for the most part around women because they're scared of losing their jobs. But they will talk to each other like that. That's how men act in refineries, in industry. A lot of times, that's their love language, is making fun of each other. And I participated in that, right along. But I behaved like a decent woman. And I was not harassed. I did not have crude remarks made to me. I behaved like a a lady with dignity, and I was treated with respect.
So I don't know if it's your experience too, but my experience working in male industries is that the women that claim harassment are flirting to some degree, because men aren't really they're not going to risk it, but they might if you're like sticking your boobs in their face.
Yeah. I mean, by and large, women that are treated poorly have engaged in conversations or behavior that led men to believe that they were okay with being treated like that.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to risk their jobs. I don't care how attractive a woman is. That if you work the industry I worked in, it was one of the best paying jobs in this area. I mean, we made as much as professionals, like doctors. I mean, we were very well paid, and we had very good benefits. So those men did not want to lose those jobs because they were not going to get another one like it, more than likely. So they are not going to. And honestly, it just comes down to the fact that this idea that men are just wicked and evil and bad is just not true. I mean, there were bad men at that refinery. There are bad men in the world, but by and large, men are good. They're just good. These were family men that loved their wives. They took care of their children. They contributed to the community, and they went out there and they worked a dangerous, hard job to take care of their families. And they everybody needs gasoline in their car. I mean, the plastic products that we use, there's so much that a refinery makes that we have to have every day just to live our lives. The medical products, I mean, men are just not bad. And I hate to see the way that they get treated by and
And
large.
what do you think when you hear podcasters talking about how hard their job is?
Because I don't think it's that bad, but it is it's almost up there with women who say that being a mom is the hardest job in the world. You know, it's I've been both. I've been a stay-at-home mom, and we raised 6 kids. So we, you know, and they were kind of doorsteps, you know. So I've been a stay-at-home mom. It's emotionally trying sometimes. But to say it's the same as climbing a 50-foot column and pulling up 50 pounds of tools and working in the heat. Yeah, or when it's 20 degrees and there's like cold, wet rain blowing on you and you feel like you can't even feel your fingers anymore because you've been out in the cold so long.
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's not a tough job. It's not a tough job, I don't think. I mean, I'm not a podcaster, but
I
I
don't
just
know.
have a hard time believing that
Should
that's
I
the
be
same thing.
offended? Maybe I should yell at you now.
No, I mean, you know, it's they have tours of the refinery. You know, I'm sure we could, you know, if you wanted to come out here, put a hard hat and some steel toes on, then
Maybe I will. That'd be a pretty funny video. They'd let me. They'd let me in.
pick up a wrench that is longer than your arm or than your leg,
God.
and hold it while somebody runs an impact. It will jar your teeth out. You know. So yeah. I understand it, and there's definitely a hierarchy. And when it comes to the hardest jobs that people do, men are out there doing those jobs.
Yeah.
And they're doing them every day, and they're doing them without complaint, and they're getting very little to no credit for it.
Yeah.
So I really do think it's a shame.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
So I just wanted to give you a female's perspective from a man's world.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for calling in.
All right. I really enjoyed talking to you. Thank you for letting me come on.
You too. Thanks for coming. Okay, guys. So I think we're going to end the show on that. It's going on like 3 hours. Well, thank you guys all for calling in. We love the callers. And, you know, let me know in the comments. Am I the bad guy? Am I the bad guy for saying the hierarchy of hard jobs? Let me know, like the video, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.